The end of the year is nigh. All that was alive and green now turns to a dark red, a bloody red. A red that activates our fear, making us all crazy. To properly channel this fear, we release it through the consumption of horror media. Nerdporial and a special guest will have a special discussion during this time to ward off evil for all its pain and pleasure. Nerdporial humbly welcomes you to Season 2 of the Serial Horror Chat. What's up, guys? Welcome to another Serial Horror Chat. And with me, well, I got the one, the only, and his grand debut on the Nerdporial channel, Pops. What's up, Pops? Thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's a blessing, man. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for hanging out. And thank you for giving me an excuse to watch another Stephen King adaptation classic, that 70s, 80s sweet spot for me. So it's been a fun time to go back in there. Yeah, loving it.
I was listening to your Christine stream that you did with Loki. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was an awesome thing. So I figure, this is the perfect follow up to that. So
yeah, I'm on a good run. I've taken in The Thing. Halloween is on Tuesday. Obviously, the Christine, Carrie. I've done just a ton of older stuff, and it just has been such a blessing to kind of like pick off certain ones. And now The Thing and Halloween I watch every year. Those are my two top. They're the top of the tier, right? But I hadn't watched Carrie and I hadn't watched Christine forever. And you had asked me before we started if I'd read the book, and I'm like, yeah, but it's been so long I couldn't even have told you. I almost have like the biased interpretation where I've seen Stephen King and other people quoting or making comments about movie versus book, and that's what's probably in my brain, not me personally reading the book. So, yeah, it'd be fun to revisit. It's just a classy age of filmmaking more than anything else. Just that's the one thing I can right off the bat was just like, man, such a different approach.
yeah, it's gonna be funny. This movie in particular, is probably the earliest thing I've seen that came from Stephen King. So I was, I believe I was 9. I was 8 or 9, and it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday, and I was watching one of the stations that has like, they used to have Star Trek TNG on all the time. The Stooges, they'd have random movies, and I'm changing the channel, and then all of a sudden I'm on the station, and I see I'm watching the end of this movie where what's her name is covered in blood. I'm like, what? I'm 9. I'm like, what is going on here? Then she goes home. And her mother stabs her and tries to murder her. And all of a sudden these knives come to life and kill the mother. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I changed the channel and I watched something else. I was 9. And then what's funny was, after maybe a year later, I found my parents watching the same movie. Like they had it on VHS, and I never realized it. But they watched it, and I tried to go walk in the living room to watch it with them. Like, get out of here! You can't watch this. So R-rated. 10 years old. I guess I couldn't watch it. So, but then when I was 12 or 13, I found all these VHSs. So when my dad had too much, my dad bought a lot of VHSs over the years. When he ran out of space, he put them in a big Tupperware container, and he put them underneath the stairs. So because of the fact that I was, by the time I was 12, 13, I had a key to the house. I'd come home, I'd be bored. So I would go through the movies that my dad had underneath the stairs. So That's how
Yeah.
I watched Carrie. That's how I watched Halloween. That's how I watched The Warriors. That's how I watched Escape from New York. Like these are movies he just
Mm.
put away for like for
Right.
like years, and I discovered these. Right, I discovered those. So it was just, and then ever since then I've watched Carrie every now and then, and so this is my first time watching it in probably like 5 years.
Yeah, it's been longer for me. Stephen King had already been a thing by the time I was like old enough to kind of like embrace these genre and that kind of thing. So it was sort of like a chicken and egg, the movies versus the books. I'm not exactly sure my timelines on some of that kind of stuff. I know for certain the first Stephen King adaptation I watched was actually Cujo, because I remember us getting the VHS, like renting it and getting it. Because I didn't really see most of these in the theater, and they're because this is 76, so this is a little bit before I would have been allowed to see this. So it was a little bit later before I started seeing them. But yeah, anytime his stuff was getting adapted, it was like, okay, we got to watch that. We got to watch that. We got to. Did I read the book? Did I not read the book? Reread the book, those kinds of things. So definitely for that almost like 10, 15 years. And I read every single one of his books up until you started getting into this, the phase around geez, I always forget what it's called. Anyway, that and Bag of Bones. And this sort of kind of like the threads of his stuff was kind of falling apart on me. So I was like, I wasn't as much of a staple for me as it was before that.
He did
So
The Mist, didn't he?
I think he did The Mist. Yeah. Yeah. I
I don't
don't
know if
remember
they.
reading The Mist.
I think The Mist has a
Kuntz.
lot in common with The Fog, with John Carpenter's The
Yeah.
Fog. You have
Right.
this creepy mist or fog, and there's monsters that inhabit the fog and all that.
Yeah.
But the mist is connected to his nether universe, his bigger universe that the Dark Tower tries to completely put together and everything. So, but yeah, so apparently, so 1976. So I wasn't alive in 1976. My parents were just a few years out of high school. So like when I watch Carrie, I think of my parents. The the mid boomer age. People, all that, and it just like I'll say this. When I went to my senior prom, took my dates in my senior prom. Didn't take place in a crappy gymnasium with just like stars and little balls dangling from the ceiling. It was we had it at a hotel downtown in Chicago, because that's where I'm in. That's where I'm at. I'm in Chicago. So, but the thing was, even though there was no prom king and prom queen, that was mainly a homecoming thing in high school. I was thinking like this movie I had in mind. This movie I had in mind when I went. I was like, okay, I have to, because when I was in high school, we came off of we had we had 9/11 obviously, but that was when I was in high school. But when I started high school, Columbine just happened. So that happens, and then I'm thinking about this movie going to prom. Like I'm thinking, I need an escape plan in case shit goes down and everything. So,
Right.
but thankfully nothing happened. But like I don't know, I had that imagination because, especially because of this movie. And what's even funnier is, they made it. The year before I graduated high school, they actually made a pilot. Did you know that they made a pilot, a Carrie pilot? They were going to make a TV show,
Hmm.
and what constituted as the book or the movie was actually a pilot, and Carrie survives. Spoiler alert.
Hmm.
So I
Okay.
don't know what would have happened. Maybe she'd be like, Kane from Kung Fu. She'd travel from town to town with the police looking for her, and she'd be helping people with her telekinesis, even though she murdered people.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work, but still,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember seeing it that I did because I was tooling around looking. I know I've never watched this 2013 version. There's only one Carrie movie. I'm not even going to bother. The 2002, like the Scream Queen one, I was curious about watching, but I haven't. I know it's on Tubi. It came up on Tubi, and I noticed because Patricia Clarkson's in it, and she's done a lot of good stuff, so I like her.
yeah.
But I have to be honest, to go back, I guess I'm old enough to know that, yeah, Homecoming and Prom was in the gym. It was cheap, cheesy decorations that you could make and afford because it was usually decorated or sponsored by the school or another class raising money and those kinds of things. And I kind of want to think that maybe our proms, or right after me, there were proms that started to go to hotels, but it really wasn't a thing yet. So that part felt pretty authentic. I definitely connected to the feel of the movie. Like it felt like the 1970s locker rooms and
Hmm.
the way bullies would operate and some of those kinds of things. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah, one thing about Stephen King, bullies is like a theme in like almost 90% of his work. Like
sure.
I am going to assume, and I was reading like was Stephen King bullied or something. I'm assuming he was because he was. I think from what I read about him, he was like by the time he was like 11 or 12, he was already 6 feet tall and he was overweight. So I think he was bullied for that reason. And he actually shared a story that when he was being babysat by someone, the babysitter who was like she was heavy set would fart on his face. Like I'm not joking. I'm not joking. I read
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
And now could be misinformation. I don't know, but I read this. I was just like, he's like, if you can handle that, you can handle. If you can handle that type of
Wow.
bullying, you can handle anything. I was just like, maybe that's why he's kind of nuts. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course.
He does seem like he really has sort of a great ability to sort of like have these interesting characteristics pulled from different people in real life. Like he talks a lot about, I work with this person in the laundromat, and this is the inspiration for Carrie's mom. And then there's this piece of the personality over here, and this personality over here, and they're kind of the amalgam of what made up Carrie, some of this kind of stuff. But this shot, oh my gosh, this shot was the 70s. Like we had these ridiculously long colored striped socks, the
Yeah.
short shorts, the t-shirts. Yeah, there definitely was a lot of this. And I actually, as I thought about this movie a lot, because I thought about her naivete, and I thought some of those elements don't age well. Like it's kind of hard to relate that this would actually be a thing. But I thought about like our sex education that we would have
Yeah.
in middle school. I thought to myself, it was really more about like, these are the weird things that are going to happen to you through puberty. Don't pick on other kids who either are in it or not having it. Like, it was more about that than it was about like operational type sex education. But it hasn't aged well that she would be this disconnected from what her menstruation would be like and things like that.
I
Kind of
agree.
in the time, I kind of okay with it. And I don't know. It's just tricky because
I
we're not really out of the satanic panic era yet. So
I agree with you, Pops, on that. I was thinking about this today. I was like, because I mean, can you like even if this did happen? Can you? I mean, as cruel as that was, and I know you're PG-13 kind of guy, Pops, but
it's your channel,
I'm
though,
gonna
buddy.
say
It's your,
this. This game was fucked up. Like this was like if something like this happened to like another girl, like I was watching this the first time in 5 years, and I was just like, it still horrifies me. I mean,
mhm.
when I was a kid, I understood what was going on, but I didn't. As an adult, as an adult who I'm much older now, seeing something like this would just completely horrify me. But I was thinking like, are like are the kids bullies the girls totally the way they did? Because I mean, basically, I mean, it happens like at a young, the first time, a girl, goes through, the cycle. I mean, it happens as early as like, I believe 9 or 10, and whenever, puberty starts. So, and I think in this movie, she's supposed to be 17 or 18. So it's
Right.
insane. So, I mean, it's just like, but it's still cruel at the same time. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this. But like I said, I agree with you that this would not be a thing. Like, is it possible to be that disconnected, even with a crazy mother like Margaret White, played by unfortunately recently passed away, Piper Laurie? Uh, it's just like I'm sure you would have heard something, especially if you go to public school.
Yeah, the only solution I could come up with, or the explanation I could come up with, would be if you had a scenario where you had like a homeschool kid who was in that sort of sheltered environment with someone who just kept all that aside, and then for some reason they were thrust back into the public school situation, and for some reason they hadn't developed yet or whatever. But even then, the one thing too, as a follow up, as far as this sequence goes, even in the 70s, it's pretty hard to believe they wouldn't call the mom, even if they thought she was crazy, to go, your daughter was basically picked on and, at least emotionally brutalized and traumatized, and this is what happened. They would have to be informed. They would call your parents or whatever, leave,
In this movie, they
get
did. In this movie, they did. That's how
right,
Mrs. White, Margaret, finds out about this, and then right after that,
right,
she beats her with the book and says her
right.
shtick, being the crazy religious fanatic. evil person that she is.
Yep.
Like I don't know, like Piper Laurie, like her acting in this movie. I'm surprised like she didn't win an Oscar. Where I'm gonna find a shot of her.
She was nominated for an Oscar. Her
I'm
and Sissy
surprised she
Spacek were
didn't win.
both.
I'm surprised she
Yeah.
didn't win. But
So it was funny too because they both have said, a lot of folks have said, because I think Travolta said the same. I think Nancy Allen said the same thing. When they read the script, it almost read like dark comedy, almost like mocking of these people. It didn't feel as much of a horror movie as the end result was, and they were so shocked about the end result when they
yeah,
were reading the script and things like that. Because I think that it would be crazy for me to leave them. The mom wouldn't be called, and I know she was called. I know, but she takes everything out on Carrie. But even then, my mom would have called the school. Like, what do you mean the kid was, picked on, and that's, they didn't call you every single time somebody you got into a little skirmish or whatever. But something like this, it seems like it would have been. You had a private meeting between a teacher and a principal, and consulting the student, that kind of thing. They would have contacted her. But man, yeah, the first time we're engaged with what Piper Laurie's about, how she takes things out. And I will admit, as someone who has kind of what society would call, I have a very extreme faith. Her caricature of this satanic panic religious person is almost laughable to me. Like, I can't imagine this person. Like, I can't imagine that sort of mindset of that extreme religion. It's so radical, and I would be considered the extremist, like by definition of culture and Twitter or whatever you want to look at it. I would be the extreme evangelist who believes these crazy things that are fictional by their definitions.
yeah,
And I look at this portrayal, this caricature, and it's like, to me, it's almost like laughable. Like, I've never known anyone like that extreme. Even when I was a kid and around religious extreme people, I didn't know anyone that's like that. I do know people who are like, well, we don't really have TV and whatever. I didn't have that, but there are people that were. But
yeah,
even those kids, they were not even homeschool kids. We had homeschool kids. People always thought we were like, sheltering these kids, but they all had extracurricular activities. They did different clubs. They did different things. And I could only know of like one family that I've ever met that was sort of like so insulated that this part could happen. You know what I mean? Like, I knew of one family that if I've heard like the one dot, I feel like maybe, but they went to a church with other kids. Like,
yeah.
when you're around other kids are like, doesn't matter if they're church kids or not, they're just kids. So
They talk.
but it was such a great premise for creating a crazy character. I love it.
Oh yeah, like the first time I see her, she stabs her daughter, and like I was a kid. I was a kid when I first accidentally came across this. There's a great channel out there that covers villainy, and evil. This channel is called The Vile Eye, and he covers he goes into the background of like particular characters that people recommend. He goes into like the philosophy behind it, and I believe Margaret White is one video that he did, and it's insane. So basically, she is just. I don't even know her full backstory, but she is basically she met a dude, and this dude, they were drinking together. He had whiskey. She liked the whiskey, and they went and they did it. And apparently, the guy that she did it with, has a gene for telekinesis, and that's what passed on to Carrie. And one thing that the movie does not go into, but the book does, and I think maybe the other adaptations do. I don't remember. But apparently, this is, she believes it's the devil's power. That Carrie's a witch and all that. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live.
Right.
She believes it's all supernatural. It's genetic. In this world, it's genetic. It's part of Stephen King's multiverse of madness or whatever, with his connecting everything with the Dark Tower and all that. So, but it's apparently, she's just batshit crazy.
She's this strange Plymouth Rock hyper Puritan woman who didn't have any sexual relations, and then with her husband they got drunk and did it just because, and that got her pregnant, and it's viewed as a sinful move. It wasn't like I guess I'm gonna put words in her mouth. Understanding like a weird interpretation of scripture from these people would be, you don't do that unless you're going to procreate. But they got drunk and did it. Had Carrie, so that wouldn't be part of God's plan. That would have come from something else. So I have my finger on the pulse of when this crazy kid will exhibit weird behavior, and then she's using like you said, she stabs her like this extreme violence. It's like I'm like my head just kind of like popped for a minute. I hit pause. I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me get my head around how crazy mom is. That this is evil, this is good, but it's okay to stab your child
Yeah.
post post PM, having a menstrual cycle to teach her a lesson about not having sexual. I'm like, what? It's a tough one. It doesn't, like I said,
Like she calls
these other yeah. These
she
elements don't always
literally
age well, but
when
she's
she
so crazy.
when
Yeah.
she finds out about this part right here. Oh,
Oh, I loved
this
it.
was messed up. This part
Yeah.
right here. She drags her into the closet to pray. But before that, she's telling her, you have to curse the blood. You're a woman now, and you're now full of sin and all that. And she's making her read this from her book. I don't even know what this book is, but it's a book that says crazy shit, crazy interpretation of what scripture says. Hits her with
Right.
the book and then grabs her. I don't know if she grabs her and throws her into the closet to pray, and you hear her screaming. Look at this version of Jesus.
It's
Why does his
nuts.
eyes glow?
I don't
That
know.
creeps me out.
Is he battery operated? I've
I don't
never.
know.
Again, I'm the extreme Christian in the room, and I have never seen stuff like this. Like even in like, I've been in like Catholic bookstores. I've been in I've been in Christians books. I mean, probably hundreds over the course of 20 something years for sure, where my life changed. Yeah, absolutely. Never seen a glowing eyed Jesus hung with like literally still having a bunch of, which by the way, none of this is
Why are there
the imagery
arrows?
that none of this is even scriptural. Like Jesus didn't have a whole bunch of weird things stuck in his belly. Like there's one piercing in his side and it was like the tip
Yeah,
of the spear. Like
the
this
lance of
weird thing they got
Longinus.
going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Like what's happened? So
he had. I think it was his palm. I think I
well,
forget if it was
he was
palms or
crucified
his,
through the palms of his hands, right?
yeah,
His feet are crossed. The nails go
yeah,
through the ankles, right?
yeah,
The nails actually go through the wrist. That was how they would crucify you back then. You
yeah.
can't go through the palm of your hands. Your hands would just rip. So they would actually tie you, and then they would go through. But then they were trying to determine if they were dead or not. And what they do is they go and they break legs. Well, he was already dead, presumably, and they pierce his side. So he never has his legs broken. And that's the only piercing, right? And this is portrayed very well in even Passion of the Christ and other movies. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this weird icon, like idol that she has in her house with a candle. So she's like really worshiping this version of what she sees her faith to be. And she's abusing this child into submission. It is so strange. And again, we have to pause because, and you mentioned Piper. Is it Piper Laurie? It's how you say it. I'm sorry, I didn't remember.
Yeah, Piper Laurie,
Yeah,
the mother.
yeah. Sissy Spacek, like literally, had like insane acting strategy to isolate herself. She would read these books and accounts of people on like what would happen if you stoned somebody, with the way your body would recoil and stuff and things like
Yeah,
that. So her body language is sort of like focused on trying to be that type of victim in this movie.
she came
Always a
off as
victim of abuse.
very.
And
Yeah, she came off as very mousy.
I don't even know the words. Mousy doesn't even do it. I mean, the idea of almost like a perpetual state of being an abuse victim.
Yeah.
And you watch her body language, you're like, wow, that is masterclass. It is masterclass.
Yeah, it was actually her husband was the art director on this. I think his name was what was his name, Jack Fisk or something. He's like, Sissy, come on, I know, I mean, come on, you'll be perfect for this movie. And you know what, she's like, she wasn't sure she wanted to do it because she was already in her 20s. She was already established. I think she was in Badlands before this with Martin Sheen,
Yep.
where they play runaway. Martin Sheen kills a few people and they run away from the cops and all that, and they get caught. And she's just like the aloof, partner, or the girlfriend of Martin Sheen. So I don't know if she was in anything. I don't know what else she was in before this, but but yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen Sissy Spacek in anything. I don't even know if I've ever seen another movie with her in it. I mean, I know she was in another Stephen King thing. Have you seen they made something for Hulu? I forgot the name of it. It was supposed to be. It takes place at Shawshank prison. I think it came out a
Okay.
few years ago. I forgot what it was called.
Oh, the Castle Rock show. You're
Castle
talking about
Rock.
the actual
Yeah,
TV series.
yeah,
I
Castle
liked
Rock.
the season one. I only watched pieces after that, and I didn't keep. I think it was Hulu it was on, right? I just didn't keep the service to keep watching it, so I just never really carried on. I have no aversion to rewatching it. Season one was fantastic. I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, I haven't. I forgot. I don't even know. Did that get canceled eventually or something? Or
I mean, I assume so. Yeah.
it's been a
I don't know
while.
that anything. I don't know that anything that was pre-pandemic. Not much survived the pandemic, so I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know her. I don't know her for much either. I have to be honest. I know she had a role in JFK,
Oh yeah, she
and
probably played
I
the
know
wife.
there's been. Yeah, there's like random movies. Like she was in one of those Andy Samberg comedies or something. Oh,
Hmm.
like a motorcycle. Oh, what was it called, guys? There's a comedy that he did. She's in that movie. It's some random thing that she's in. One chat will know. Chat will have my back. There's also a Christmas movie she was in with Vince Vaughn, who's done I don't know 4 or 5 Christmas movies. But you guys, chat will take care of me. They'll have my brain doesn't always connect all those dots, but there's enough. They'll throw against the wall. Chat, you fill them up. That yeah, but she's not a regular in my diet of entertainment. And should we
Same
talk
here.
about briefly the casting thing real quick because that's a
Yeah,
weird backstory too. Because she easily could have become Princess Leia. It's really like mine goes, holy cow. But
so
yeah,
yeah,
Brian
so
De Palma and George were friends. They're from that same era. It's cheaper, it's more efficient to just pool your resources, and that's what they did. And what go into the big casting day, and you could audition for both movies. So, yep, Amy Irving right there was
yeah.
ultimately Mrs. Spielberg. Easily could have been Princess Leia as well.
William
I don't know
Cat.
what
William Cat
William Cat could have
is
been
Luke.
Luke.
He could. I think he would have if things would have fallen by the wayside with Mark Hamill. I think he could have been a good. I think he could have been a good Luke Skywalker. Like I was rewatching this movie. I've never really cared about his character, but I was now because I'm doing this doing streaming and I have to do more analysis on videos. I think his character pretty stand up guy. I mean does all this for her. Like she's asking him to, she feels remorseful for picking on Carrie, for throwing those tampons and sanitary pads at her, and she wants to do something to make it right for herself or for who knows. Um,
Yeah, I
and
couldn't
so
agree more. I think
he asked,
she's
yes,
trying to make amends, right? And
she's yeah,
gets him to take her. It's like, wow, I could not imagine my girlfriend getting me to do that. That
the
would not
most
have worked.
the most popular, and he's the most popular athlete in the school, and he's the most popular guy in the school, and yeah, and he ultimately he's like, oh really? And then they're watching. I don't know what they're watching. They're watching some James Garner Western. I don't even know. Do you have an idea what movie they're watching?
When I was watching it, I think I paused and looked it up, and now I don't remember what it was. I just because I just needed to know, like it was bothering me that I didn't know, and I looked it up, and of course it didn't stick. So yeah,
Yeah. So he's just like, okay, like right, perfect shot right here. She's like, okay, I'll do it. And so and what's funny is even though he's the most popular guy in the school, he is still pretty kind of awkward asking Carrie out. So I won't get John Travolta right here, but we'll get to them. But like, yeah, so he first he approaches her in the library. She scurries off like a little mouse and everything. And one thing that she says here that she's concerned about, when you're picked on for quite a while and people are all of a sudden nice to you, you have no reason to believe that their intentions are honorable. I was, and I was
100%.
I was picked on as a kid, and
Hmm.
as I wasn't a little kid, I was a big kid. But there were points where like people were pretending to be nice in order to get another laugh out of me or something like that. And I saw through it. I usually never really. I never gave them the chance. So, and it's kind of what she's doing here. So seeing this part really moved me, really, really, it's something I felt I could relate to and everything. So, But what I like about him is I think here he is I mean, I think he's fairly genuine in how he feels, and I like how, especially in the final part of the movie, the final part of the movie where she's innocent, and then things take a things take everything goes south after that. Like he tells her, like, I'm happy to be here with you, and that's pretty. And he tells her that the gym teacher, Miss Collins, her, I don't know why they changed her name, but she was in the book and in the all the other adaptations, she's Miss Desjardins. Um,
Hmm.
we'll talk about her arc, interestingly enough. But they try to bring it home to her that we're not playing pretend with you. We're trying to be real with you, and we're happy to be with you. And that's pretty much all she needs. That's all she really needs. And so by the time you get to when they eventually, okay, that's a little too far, but right here, everything builds to this very wholesome moment right here. And I was just like, damn 70s movies, damn 70s horror movies or thrillers, and the way you treat your protagonists and all that. So it's just I don't know, I'm speechless. It's just, it builds up
Well,
and then everything goes south after this.
yeah. So, first off, let me say I couldn't agree more. So we have this big abuse sequence, and you end up with like they all get punished and how they get punished, and you have a divide between Nancy Allen's character and Amy Irving's character, where Nancy Allen's character is going to be bitter and grudgeful. I'm going to hold it against you forever, which is what we see also later on with the movie Christine. It's almost like the bully has to enact revenge. And here we have a positive response to go, I really actually feel bad. I need to figure out how to make amends. I'll get my hunky boyfriend involved. As a first time watch, because I tried to separate myself so I would at least try to pretend to myself I didn't know how this would go. I thought to myself, I didn't totally know for a while if Amy Irving's character and Bill Katz's character are in on it or not. Like, you actually do have a little bit of a gray area. Like, are they going to be in on it with the Nancy character as well? Like, it'll just be a twist. Like, it'll be, they're going to dupe the audience as well. And the fact that they don't do that, I think really creates a nice binary for the audience. Like, well, do you want to be like Nancy Allen's character? Or do you want to be like Amy Irving's character? And I also think that he is, it's the fake it till you make it. Like, he fakes it early on, like when he's trying to like meet her in the library, go into her door. I don't think he's totally genuine yet. He's doing it because he likes the girlfriend. But you see at prom, he generally is changing his body language, and there's an actual kiss and things like that. And you actually feel like their story arc is like they actually do they see her as a human. They see her as vulnerable. They see her as actually like a nice girl who's just like kind of a lot more normal than she even realizes herself. And I liked all that.
Yeah, it's right
I liked
here.
that a
I
lot.
believe when they dance and use the cameras
Right.
going around them. That's where he's
Right.
really like, he's like, you're here, I'm here, and I'm happy, and I hope you're happy too. And then that's where
Yeah.
they get this really wholesome moment right here. And then okay, but yeah, that's exactly what yeah. So yeah, I actually you're not. I don't think you're wrong right there. So I actually that's a really good take. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I think that you were talking about the bullying aspect of it too. Because I was on all sides of this. I was not a nice person at times in my life. I was actually on the receiving end at times in my life, things like
Same
that.
here.
And definitely as the bully, I know I can totally testify to the fact that I tried to make amends to someone. Like, I just want to apologize for ever treating you badly. And the person's response, because this was through the internet, I didn't know how to get in touch with them, got through them through the internet. Their first response, "Are you okay? Are you dying?" And I thought to myself, man, how bad was I to you? I didn't think I was that bad. And I was like, no. I mean, but that was their first response. I'm like, okay, I knew I wasn't really nice to you, and I was, but I wasn't like this. I wasn't like, I didn't, pummel people, or I wasn't like that. It was more like I just, treated people. I really treated this person one way privately versus one way we were in front of other people. That was really the crux of it, right? And when you were talking about how she's not going to believe them,
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. And I will say that because of how that's done well, I mean, De Palma nails all of this. So you and the audience are like, I'm not sure he actually is being authentic or not. Is he playing her too? And then as you keep going, it starts to almost get like awkward with you. I mean, there's moments where I felt kind of awkward, like, is he in on it or not in on it? Like, I
Yeah.
kind of know, I've seen the movie before, but you're kind of like, gosh, there's such a fine line with how well that's pulled off. And it's
Especially if you've seen Stephen King stuff before, you
right.
wonder that too. But being the first adaptation and the first published novel by Stephen King,
Yep.
I'm curious what people thought then.
Well, this movie had to have been, well, again, it's considered, and this is, I got to be honest, by 2023 standards, this is more like a thriller, suspenseful movie rather than like horror movie. But for its time, this, and Stephen King had this great, this is why he exploded in popularity, is when you go through movies like this and Cujo and Firestarter, this stuff felt very real, like it could just happen. Rabid dog, girl with telekinesis that's a victim of being a bully, the girl that can just start fires. You're like, holy crap, this stuff could actually happen. This stuff got in your head. And I think that is the genius of some of these writings and these adaptations.
What about
Double down on it.
what about Christine, a female car, a
Again,
female car that doesn't.
it was a little bit later, so it was 83, right? So it's a
Yeah,
little bit later. So it. But I would say the idea, because there are definitely sequences. We talked about this on our Talk Hard we did. There are sequences where they black the windows out, so you don't know if Arnie's driving or not. So there are moments, and I said this because I know I remember I remember vividly being walking, and it was kind of foggy, and the headlights were coming, and it is kind of unnerving to know that you're that vulnerable on just the shoulder of a road. You're only like a few feet from the edge of the road.
yeah,
After seeing a movie like that, it's like seeing the birds flocking around somewhere. And you're like taken back to
yeah.
a Hitchcock moment. Like,
Hmm.
yes, it was based on a real life bird attack. I get it. Don't kill me in chat. But it's not like it happens regularly. But every
Yeah,
time that the birds are congregating, I always have those moments of Hitchcock. And same thing
yeah,
with the car in the fog or something like that. So
yeah.
that's a good movie, man. If you got in someone's psyche, that's a good movie. You've done something right.
Yeah, and what's funny, you bring up Arnie. I never realized it, but Arnie's also Thornton Mellon's son in Back to School. I never realized that.
Yeah.
Same actor.
Yeah.
So yeah, Christine was Chris. I had no idea John Carpenter did Christine when I first saw it. I just rented it one day, and
Hmm.
it looked cool, and I thought it was cool. Very cool 80s. The guy that plays Old Man Marley in Home Alone is in that movie. I
Love
forget
it.
his name.
Yep.
Roberts Blossoms. He was in
Yeah.
it. I think he was a homeless guy or something, or he ran or he owned a lot or something. I forget, but oh well. That's Christine. Well, I'll eventually do one on Christine, but when we talk about the casting, uh, I couldn't find anything of like the Star Wars people, auditioning for this. I found them, William
Hmm.
Katt and Amy Irving auditioning for Star Wars, but I couldn't find the reverse. So I couldn't find John Travolta. I read your comment on Twitter. I was like, I wanted to find John Travolta doing his hey, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. I wanted to hear something. I was hoping to hear
Yeah.
something like that from John Travolta. If John Travolta ever, got around to playing Luke.
Yeah. There was Jesus, it's ad blocked. I was cheating trying to pull it up. I know I saw something, but I'm not sure Travolta really auditioned much for Star Wars, or he at least maybe he may have tried. But he was on like lunch break. He was on like a short break from Welcome Back, Kotter. It wasn't like he had a ton of time to do this. Like this is the actor shenanigans of that era day, right? Harrison Ford wouldn't have been there because he would have been cast independently of the main casting day, right? Because they had studio wanted other people. James Caan, I think, is one of the people. That it's that era of actor. So I
Yeah.
don't think Harrison Ford would be part of that. But it would be interesting to see if Mark Hamill was ever. Did Mark Hamill audition for this or something like that? Maybe I don't know.
What's funny is I think if I remember correctly, Mark Hamill was in like soap operas before that. I could see. I don't know if I could see him playing like the most popular guy in school, but I could see him playing a well-rounded, good dude. Good dude who will do this for his girlfriend. So like I could see him doing this type of role. but maybe not being the most popular guy. I mean, he's a really handsome guy. But I like the star athlete. I mean, I think
No, he wouldn't.
William Cat has that in the bag, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I wouldn't see a role in this movie really for Mark Hamill, other than just like a bit part or something like that. Travolta playing the bully was really fascinating. Like I said, to come off the heels of also watching Christine in the same few days, where I watched them both again. It's almost like the exact same characters in Christine. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, this is exactly the same character. So it's part of that Stephen King trope, like you were talking about earlier, Nirpo, where it's just like, yeah, he has this sort of like bullies and stare, and he kind of just works around framing them a little bit differently from one another, so you can at least keep them separate in your head. And I have to be honest, the first time you see them and you're watching Travolta and Nancy in the freaking sea, I was like, this is hard to believe I'm watching Nancy Allen and freaking John Travolta in this movie. It's
yeah,
just, it's so strange to know that this massive career, this life that they have, and of other film roles and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, yeah.
yeah. My first movie I ever seen with Nancy Allen. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised if I told you this. RoboCop.
RoboCop had to be the
I was
one.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
I was like trying to remember, like, where have I seen her before? And I realized what was her name? I forgot her character's name in RoboCop. I keep forgetting. Dang it. Oh well, but
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. And of course, John Travolta. First time I ever seen John Travolta, I was probably like 5 years old, and my mother was a big fan of the movie Look Who's Talking. That was the first time I ever seen John Travolta in anything. Was Look Who's Talking. So I had no idea, but in this movie, this is his first film role. This was his. I don't think he was in anything before this. I don't even know when Welcome Back, Kotter came out. Did that come out early?
Yeah, Travolta. Yeah, Welcome Back, Kotter was already a thing. So he people knew of him. I don't know exactly the timeline of Welcome Back, Kotter versus this. This got him into Saturday Night Fever and Grease and stuff like that, because he could dance. So everybody was all, like, that was really what boomed. But yeah, Welcome Back, Kotter was already out. But I don't know that he was really a household name exactly. Yeah, Nancy Allen though, she played Lewis in RoboCop.
Lewis, that was her name, Lewis. Okay.
But she was in other. Brian De Palma has a couple other films. I don't remember all their names. I definitely remember Dressed to Kill. I know she was in that, and she was in the Spielberg film called 1941. Again, they're all friends, right? So you have to, Lucas and Zemeckis and Spielberg and De Palma and Coppola, and they're all friends. They all run the same group and crowd and whatever. So to see them in other movies is not uncommon. So
yeah, Nancy Allen, she had another role. So I forgot. I still need to pick up this Blu-ray of Carrie. But I did pick up the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of Blowout. Have you ever seen Blowout?
It's funny you mentioned that too, because I was in the middle of looking at all this stuff, whatever. I know that her and Travolta were in that together with De Palma, and I remember seeing the picture of the poster of the box, but I don't remember seeing this movie. So I'm sure when I watch it, it will come back. Because I remember seeing it. I vividly remember this low-budget slasher movie thing, right? So
every time I think about her in Blowout, it's let's just say the way her arc ends is unforgettable.
Okay.
It's unforgettable, and a big part of that was the actor playing the bad guy, John Lithgow. So John Lithgow was in Blowout. It was Brian De Palma. I think they were married. I think that's why she was in a lot of his stuff. They were married at one point, and it's just I'll just say this: it's messed up. It's a mess. It's another messed up De Palma. I have not seen Dressed to Kill. I've seen clips of it, like the elevator kill. I've seen that clip millions of times. Of course, I kind of know the twist and everything.
Right.
Michael Caine and all that. So, but I do have to see the movie in its entirety. So, but one thing about De Palma, I think he came off of another movie that he did, a movie called Phantom of the Paradise. Have you ever seen Phantom of the Paradise? It was his take on like Phantom of the Opera meets meets the Legend of Faustus or something like that. Guy sells the soul to the devil and everything. And the guy, this is a songwriter that wants to make it into the music industry, and the producer guy, I forget the guy that plays the producer, basically just screws him over, and then he just gets his face deformed, and then he wears this bird helmet mask, which let's just say a certain manga creator kind of copied that design
Hmm.
for the villain in Berserk. I'll say that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
same idea. Just a weird movie. It's a violent rock
Hmm.
opera. It's basically a violent rock opera musical with and with horror, with little elements of horror. So him going in
That
from
one
that
does
to
not ring a
this.
bell. That one I definitely would.
I
Yeah, I don't
didn't
even
hear
know how I
about
come down on that one. Yeah.
I didn't hear about it until a friend of mine told me about it. So it's just
Hmm.
definitely it's a weird one. But they play a lot. You hear a lot of doo wop. You hear a lot of 50s and 60s, music, early 70s. It's all there. It's all there. It's awesome. But what I want to, but the reason why De Palma is involved in this was he was, you have to think about it. Stephen King is, one of the most popular probably the most popular author alive. Like almost all of his stuff has been adapted in one form or another, and he owes this initial adaptation, this movie, to Brian De Palma, because Brian De Palma, like Hitchcock, would basically find new projects by checking out the latest books. And Carrie came out, published in 1974, and I think De Palma himself picked it up, read it, and really liked it. Thought the characters were this would be a very interesting movie, and so he went ahead and put this movie. He basically put this movie together, bought the rights from Stephen King for like a couple $1,000 because Stephen King was poor and he didn't know how to negotiate proper for that.
Yeah. $2,500. Yeah.
Like the Stephen King, basically, the reason why this book came to be was Stephen King was wondering what would it be like for an older girl, to go through the cycle. I don't want to say too much for reasons. Go through the cycle in front of her classmates, and then also happen to have telekinesis. That's the advent of this book. That's the advent of Carrie came from, was asking those two questions right there. So, and then after that, he was just like, I don't think I can write this. I'm writing about women. I don't think I'm doing good. Like, he took like 10 pages that he wrote and he tossed it. And his wife, because they were living in a trailer, he was married. He was working as he was working at a college as an English teacher, and they had two kids. They were living in a trailer. His wife looks at the stuff and she's like, I don't think this is bad. Keep doing it. Keep writing this and see what happens. He's like, sure. So he wrote it. He was not proud of it. He hated it, and he had it published, and it became good to the point where he didn't have to work. All he could just, instead of being a YouTuber back then, if you follow your dream and be a writer, if you make it good, you can, do it. You don't have to work again. So that's what ultimately happened to Stephen King. Then he wrote Salem's Lot. Then he wrote The
Yeah,
Shining.
it was all very quickly, just boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. Everything was getting adapted. So as fast as he was finishing Salem's Lot and it hits the newsstand, and people knew, oh, Stephen King, it's Carrie was coming out in theaters. By the time Salem's Lot's being done, he could do Shining. And it just kept going and going and going. And it literally was like that for years. Like, everyone knew every book he released was probably going to be made into a movie.
Yeah.
And almost all of them were at least reasonably entertaining. Now, some of them were not nearly as good as others, but it was pretty rare that you got a book that you thought was terrible, and then or that was adapted into some sort of movie and it was just terrible. So, but I'm with
Yeah.
you, Mark. I've never seen the remakes. I have not. I'm tempted to watch the one that was on Tubi, but we're moving away from the October Halloween shtick on things, so I probably won't watch it. Maybe next year. We'll see.
Yeah. So, so let's talk about the gym teacher right here. So let me see if I can find. Let me see if I find her. Okay, that's the ashtray where Carrie realizes she can control her power through her emotions. So the higher the emotion she has, the more potent the reaction to an inanimate object is. So, but here's the gym teacher. So initially, the gym teacher was what's the word? Was revulsed? Is that proper word? by what happened with Carrie. She's like, why is she like this and all that? And one thing that she does, at least, okay, I'm going a little too far here, but she's talking to the principal right here. And by the way, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm older now, but based on the way they're talking to each other and the way they're showing it, I think the two are having sex. I think the gym teacher and the principal are. I think the principal is cheating on his wife, and they're kind of having.
Is that in the book?
I don't think so. This is just something my brain kind of read, watching this particular scene. So
I will say this: in the 70s and the 80s, it was like just people didn't have sort of like the physical barriers that they have now, and that lent itself to people. Maybe they weren't having an affair today, but it would easily start. Like one person would start initiating it or whatever, and it'd be because just a lot of the physical barriers and stuff like that just weren't as common as it is now. So
yeah. So apparently, one thing that she says in the office right here that I guess kind of pays off in a way, because she says she kind of, if she was a kid, she basically says if she was a kid and she was in that locker room, she would have done exactly what those girls would have done. Like she was one of
Right.
she literally says like right here that she was one of those types. In the book, however, Miss Desjardins, it was she's just like, what the hell's wrong? She's like literally like, what the hell's wrong with you? And then she changes her tone. But like there was like she was like disgusted. Like the gym teacher in the book and in the remake or whatever, well maybe not the remake, but the TV version, was disgusted by Carrie. And one thing that the book covers that the movie does not. Apparently, Carrie develops not only telekinesis but also telepathy. So she's able to read into the intentions, especially by the end of the book. She's able to read the intentions of the person that she's broadcasting to. So ultimately, she does find out at the end of the book that because I mean, imagine you have you're going through this great thing, your life is about to change, then your life goes completely south when you get drenched with the blood and all that, and you go into a rage, and you believe that everybody was behind it. Obviously, she probably thought Tommy was behind it. She probably thought Sue was behind it. In this movie, her and Sue never really meet up. In the book, they meet up. In the two remakes, the remake and the TV version, they meet up after all this happens. But in this movie, they never meet up. So, I mean, Sue tries to warn everybody that there's the blood up there, blood up on the rafter. But Miss Collins throws her out. Miss Collins throws her out and basically seals her and everyone else's fate right here. But yeah. So
I will say with Miss Collins, I thought her character was pretty believable because she seemed. So every scene almost has like some more exposition that helps it. So she, with the principal, will be repulsed by Carrie's behavior. She's bashing the mom and the crazy mom. And it's not a shock that this woman wouldn't know. How could she not know? Well, it's possible. And then when she's talking to the students who bullied her, she's like, you guys should be ashamed of yourself. You shouldn't treat another person this way, blah, blah, blah. So she's sort of like all over the map of I would have done it too, but it's bad behavior. We should be empathetic. Then as the movie goes on, as she starts to see Bill Katz's character going to prom, she confronts him, was there an ulterior motive here? They're like, no, we're trying to make amends. She starts to see, or she's trying to sniff out how genuine things are, helps her with the dress, different things like that. So her journey is really interesting because at the end of the day, she's the one that kind of, by throwing Sue out, she basically sentenced them all to be trapped in there with Carrie. They couldn't get out, and makes it worse because there was no warning. It just it spirals out of control and turns into a complete disaster.
But yeah, like this particular scene where she's where Carrie is just like, I'm assuming this is the scene where Carrie, I forget exactly how she finds out, how Miss Collins finds out, because Miss Collins goes right after Tommy and Sue over what they're doing, because she's like, why are you doing, she's like literally like, why are you doing this? Like, and she's questioning their motives and all that. And Sue was just like, Sue was being, of course, being defiant and saying, we don't care how we look. And I like how Tommy was kind of
He
hesitant
was like,
to
yeah,
agree
he's
with
like,
that.
you're going too far speaking for me there, girlfriend. I agree to take this girl to the prom. I don't need you trashing my entire reputation here. Let's not get carried away. Yeah.
So I'm curious about this scene now. Now I think this is a very wholesome scene right here, where she just, she has her look in the mirror and says, "I see a pretty girl here. Believe in yourself. Have some." This is her way of saying, have some confidence in yourself. You know, you know, and like that. And I think this was a good thing. I'm curious if she was do you think she was genuine here, or do you think she was just trying to make her feel better?
I'm a little torn because I think that it's partially birthed out of the guilt she feels for allowing that earlier scene to even happen under her watch.
Yeah,
Her confession that she would have been on the bully side of that.
yeah,
And then seeing, in my opinion, seeing the fact that, because she definitely is witnessing the fact that Chris and Billy are responding one way and Sue and Tommy are responding the other. She doesn't really believe Sue and Tommy. She's taking them at their face value, but she feels like, well, I can intercede and maybe I can help this girl not be humiliated. I'll step in for this crazy mom and be a surrogate mom and try to say, oh, you're pretty. Here's a, let's try to make how you look, put your shoulders back, that kind of thing.
yeah,
And then we'll kind of see where it goes. So I don't know that her motivation is particularly clean, so to speak. It's not as, it's almost like, I like the fact that I think these characters are kept, De Palma's done a good job of keeping King's characters complicated, which I think reflects human nature better.
yeah,
She's probably just emotionally all over the place. Like she's like partially guilt, it's partial of what I said before, and then also like trying to be good natured, of trying to be, even if that's motivated selfishly, as like I will be the mother figure to this horrible mom, because it's the horrible mom's fault anyway. It is a lot of how I see her character. It's like, well, the
yes,
mom is blamed because she sees the mom for who the mom really is, a monster. Maybe not to the level that we've seen with the abuse, but she sees the mom that way, as this crazy religious person who makes Carrie this way. So hence she's bold, so I'll intercede as this and try to be good natured. So
yeah, I agree. Like once again, Margaret just like in this is a perfect segue to go into more of Margaret now. Like first we see her, she's she first she tries to, cause like, hey, there's the sin is everywhere with the kids nowadays, and she's trying to talk to. By the way, this is Amy Irving's actual mother, Priscilla Pointer, and she's gonna be, she's still alive. She's gonna be 100 next year, so she'll be a what they call a centenarian or something like that. So yeah, so yeah,
wow,
she's
yeah.
so she's still with us.
May.
Yeah,
Yeah, Priscilla
so
Pointer. Yeah, cool.
it's but like she's trying. So like right now, one thing I took notice of this particular scene. So you see how smiley she is. She's talking about the blood, the lamb, the Lamb of God, the blood of Christ, saving the kids and all that. And then Priscilla gets or I forget, Mrs. Snell gets a phone call, and she's like, "What's going?" She's talking to someone. He's like, "I gotta get rid of Margaret White. She's here in the house." And so, what does she do to get rid of her? I'll give you. Here's $10 donation. This is $10 in 1976. So,
Yeah,
and
but
then
she basically she's doing the you don't really care about this religious nonsense. You're just this crazy person, whatever. You just really want money. I'm just gonna throw money at you, and you'll actually be happy. And instead, Margaret's like so off put that her genuine faith is how she sees herself. She sees herself as being genuine.
yeah,
Has basically been reduced to nothing. It's as trivial to this woman as $10, and that is very insulting to this monster of a human being.
yeah, and then she gets completely silent. Takes out her lunchbox, puts the money or that little container, puts it in. About to walk out, then she spins around and she says, "I pray you find Jesus," and then scurries off into
Yeah.
like the monster she is, scurries back off to her lair. And so yeah, this I laughed when I saw this. I was just like, oh man,
But this sets up so many pieces, right? This is so
yes,
much of the foundation for the whole film. of what her faith is kind of like, how other people see her,
Yeah.
how she would respond when her faith is being called into question. So when you see all of that later on, and you see
Yes.
how Carrie is responding to her, pushing back and things like, you understand why Margaret's going to behave that way, because we've already seen it. We know how Margaret is. Margaret is completely half cock. She's nuts,
Yes.
right? So yeah.
Hmm. So yeah,
And
like
this
right.
scene, look at the way it's framed. Isn't that a beautiful shot? We don't do
Yes.
shots like this anymore.
Yeah, you got them. You have a nice little, nice little tapestry
Foreground.
of
Yep.
the Last Supper. Uh,
Yep.
yeah,
Foreground, background. Look at Carrie's on the outside of this sort of like barrier to entranceway into a gate, like an archway of like a church. So it's almost like sacred ground versus not sacred, where Margaret is. These ridiculous windows that almost should be filled with like stained glass, like out of a church. I mean,
yes. I'm
this
like,
is
what is
incredible.
like what? I'm like, what is the point of
Yeah, they
this? Just
carved it. So I've never seen this in an actual house, but that you would go into homes that have these bizarre shaped entryways and things like that in them.
yeah,
So I love the fact that they would find one that almost looks like those should be filled with stained glass. At least the two, you know what I mean? So that's
yeah.
really, this is beautiful, beautiful set, beautiful scene.
I agree. I miss that. All now it's all shaky cam and terrible shots and
Oh,
the
trust me, if you
sins of
watch an
women.
ounce of my content, I'm such a nerd for like set design and costume design and just the
Or
little,
shot composition. Like I actually,
yes.
because of channels like Collative Learning and watching Kubrick films,
Hmm.
I'm actually interested in shot composition. Like, why does the director put this small little thing? Like, why does the director put this in the shot? What purpose does it serve? What,
Hmm.
like for instance, if you watch The Exorcist and we're in the doctor's office, Ellen Burstyn's talking to the doctor about Reagan, and you see the doctor has these little animal figurines. He has like a camel. He has all these things. I was just like, is this like a little Easter egg just to say, hey, remember the beginning of the movie? Like, why did Friedkin, why did they put those in the shot? Like, it's always fun to ask those questions.
Hmm.
I'll have to
I
say.
agree.
And now, do they now were they always are they always intentional? Like, did they just put them in there sometimes just to have a little Easter egg? Who knows? But I like to think that there's like meaning behind everything in the shot. Like, things would not
Yeah,
be in
because
the
you end
shot
up.
if the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that because sometimes the answer is all the above, right? Because sometimes it's meaning, sometimes it's just to have fun. Like Spielberg will put on the Ark of the Covenant or one of the hieroglyphics. I don't remember exactly where they are, right? It's the R2D2 and 3PO, right?
Yeah,
There's like
that's
these
right.
hieroglyphics. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you have these random things. And there's other times where you're like, no, it means something. It means this. It foreshadows to this. It ties to this book that this character touches or whatever. And again, I wanted to point out because I'm so glad you found my frame like this because all of the stuff that Margaret has, again, speaking as a Christian, I don't have any of this stuff. I've never run across this stuff. So I don't know what material and what church she's supposed to represent. The crazy church that
Westboro
she's part.
Baptist.
Yeah, she is. So I have to take a call because I'm getting like an emergency call from somebody. So I will be right back.
Okay, all right. So take a break after these messages. So we got what's going on, guys? So Mark Clark says Doctor Sleep bored me to sleep. Doctor Sleep was basically, hey, we're gonna try and adapt the elements of the Shining novel that were not adapted, like for instance the hotel, the Overlook Hotel and the boiler room, which did not appear in the Stanley Kubrick film. So Doctor Sleep was an interesting one. My friend Marty read the book, so he's been telling me to read it. He says it's really good. My friend, he got me in. Stephen King is what really got me into reading initially. I mean, even before Song of Ice and Fire, like I was reading books like, the first book that really took my interest because I was just out of college. I was showing everybody the movie Battle Royale, the Japanese, movie where all, the kids are taken to an island. They're wearing these collars and they're supposed to kill each other and all that. Well, I was looking up that movie, and come across a book called The Long Walk, and I read that, and that's really how I got started in Stephen King. So yeah, I was talking to the chat pops. So I was talking about how
Gotcha.
Stephen
No, you're
King was
fine.
actually the reason why I really started to get into reading, even before getting the Song of Ice and Fire books. My friend got me into the Dark Tower stuff, and then now I'm reading Wheel of Time with Prophet of the Dragon and all those guys. So like my reading journey has been all over the place. But yeah, going back to this, the sins of women, I don't think that's real. I think they just something that they made up just to look nuts and everything. So
Yeah, I don't. I just wanted to say for the noob that's watching this like 3 years from now, or thinks this reflects of Christianity, and the sins of wisdom, sins of a woman. Listen, folks, I got nothing for you, man. I got nothing for you. So, I don't know.
It
But I
just
tell you what, I believed every minute of this movie. This movie felt so real to me. Like it didn't matter if it was my unit. It didn't matter if it was Earth Prime in my world, whatever Stephen King's universe it is, where Dark Tower exists and Needful Things and everything else. It's like I believe all of this. It's good. It fits for his universe. So yeah,
yeah.
there we go.
Yeah, so yes, and she's hitting her, she's whacking her with the book, making her repeat herself. Eve was weak. Eve was weak. And then, the curse of blood, when you become a woman and all that, it's nuts, batshit crazy. Like, you're punishing your daughter for going through something that everybody goes through, including yourself. Oh, I was sinful. I was weak and everything. Oh, fuck off.
Such a weird
Seriously.
philosophy, right? It's just so strange to me. So
Whacking her with this. I mean, look at that. Like, she's completely subdued. The great shot right here. It's just
yeah.
and just
Dempsey asked a question about King writing Shining.
I mean, he wrote the book.
I'm like,
he didn't write the movie though. The movie Stanley Kubrick wrote.
Right. Yeah, they adapted it. So I just didn't know exactly what he meant by the comment. But he meant screenplay.
So I mean, I know you know this because I know you brought it up during the stream during your Christine stream. Stephen King is famous for, and they made this a plot point in the Ready Player One movie, that he hated The Shining. Like he hated Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining because one thing about Stephen King was a guy that had a lot of vices. Cocaine was a big one. Alcoholism was another. So the Shining was basically about him being an alcoholic and being abusive and all that. And that was a very personal story for him. And to see Stanley Kubrick kind of turn it into something different from what, it was less of a character drama. They just made Jack Nicholson the bad guy because he's Jack Nicholson. He's nuts, one who flew over the cuckoo's nest, I guess, nuts or everything. So, and that was the first thing he disagreed with on was having Kubrick casting Jack Nicholson for the role because he wanted Jack Torrance to be basically an everyman. So when he did become evil and did bad stuff, you were just like, whoa, this is not the same dude. Like that was the transformation. Right. Whereas, you see Jack Nicholson, he's going to
he's nuts.
He's nuts.
Well, no, he was nuts in the beginning of the movie. So I think the biggest valid point of rewatching, I got to be honest, I haven't rewatched The Shining in I don't know how forever because once I saw this, I couldn't unsee it. Jack Nicholson's crazy in the beginning of the movie, and he just gets crazier. Yes. It's not like the book where he's like not crazy and becomes like nuts, and you're like, whoa. It would be, if I was the character in The Shining, it would make, okay, so I'm the character at the end of The Shining. It's like, okay, yeah, he's become a crazy person. That's the story of the journey. Whereas if you're just Jack Nicholson, you're just crazy. So he actually likes the end of Carrie, which I think everyone should know. But again, it's another reason why you should rewatch Carrie, because he likes that. So that's why it's so weird they would remake it. It's like, leave it alone if he liked it. Like, it seems like it's one to not mess with, I've never watched Doctor Sleep because that was brought up, but I guess this is my aversion to the whole Shining thing. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to be a part of it.
So Stephen King actually liked the end of Carrie.
He's made some comments like he thought that the ending was fine. He was all good with it all. So again, I think this is where I and King I'm not a huge King fan, especially this latter part of his career, but yeah, I feel like the character journey and the arcs are what matter. And I feel like, yes, the film captures Carrie's violent, it captures enough of all of that it was fine. So you read the book more recently, so you tell me how much you felt like it betrayed the book.
Betrayed the book or
I don't know. Well, you tell me. I don't know. I mean, is that too harsh of a word?
Well, the Shining, I mean.
Well, I think The Shining does.
The Shining definitely. The Shining, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of backstory, and there's a lot of we learned quite a bit about the character Jack Torrance, which we don't get in the movie. So, but the Carrie ends up being very harsh. So ultimately, like, she kind of she kind of gets out of her rage mode in this. Here, I think she just stops being rage just because she takes a bath or something. Whereas
Hmm.
in the movie or in the book, in the movie, she just basically burns the school down and goes home and all that, and that's it. And she defends herself against Chris and Billy trying to run her over and all that, which is different. The sequence of events is different in the
Okay.
book.
Yeah.
But she destroys the town. Like she is like her rage knows no bounds in the book. Like she literally she blows up gas stations, she blows up buildings with her mind, and she broadcasts herself and her intentions, and people can hear her, and
So
she can hear the intentions of her tormentors, and of course the people around her. So
okay.
she hated she tried to kill Miss Desjardins. Miss Desjardins actually survives the book. So the gym teacher actually survives the book. In this movie, she does not survive. In this book, she is pushed into a wall. She can't move,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, a rafter comes down, swings down, and just hits her and kills her.
Chops her in half, basically.
Chops
Yeah.
her, yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So
So in the book, because you mentioned she has more than just telekinesis, right? She has telepathy.
yes,
The film doesn't have that. So once we remove that, and the film doesn't spend any time, the film is so narrow that spending all of its time and focus on the students in the school
yeah,
that it would be awkward to figure out why would Carrie attack the town writ large. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
that'd be the main difference. Is like figure out like, well, how are we going to justify? Because I'm assuming King is giving us reason and motivations for Carrie to do all of that.
So
Because in the movie, it
yeah,
wouldn't make sense. There's no context for her to attack anything beyond her mother and the school. The film doesn't take place anywhere else. It's like a very small
yeah.
film in a lot of ways.
So the book is what's called an epistolary novel, where actually what's funny is the novel begins after the fact, after all the shit went down, and then it goes back, and then we see Carrie's story after that. But it started off like with newspaper articles and journals of like
Okay.
Sue's journal and all that of what happened. So that's kind of how it framed the story. So like there was a detective that's trying to investigate, like they're looking for Carrie White or something, or actually no, that's the remake. Because in the book she dies, but she doesn't die being she doesn't die being the house crumbling and going into the ground and all that. Like that was a movie, that was a Brian De Palma thing. Like her fighting, or her killing Billy and Chris,
Yeah.
happens after the stuff with her mother. So her mother still stabs her in the book, but she doesn't get stabbed in the back. She gets stabbed in the shoulder, but she gets stabbed in a critical part of her shoulder. And she ends up, kills her mother instead of by, the whole crucifix, I'll show this right here. See if I can find it. No, that's a little too early. House, that's a creepy shot. This is another creepy shot. Let's see. Okay, that scared me when I was younger. Right here.
Oh yeah.
So she's basically kind of crucified. Or right here. There you go.
Yeah.
This was
Very
a
much
movie.
like the statue.
This was a movie thing too. This was something, because in the book Carrie stops her mother's heart. So like she still gets stabbed and she still goes after, but she manages to focus on her mother's heart and just end it, just obliterate it, and that's how
And
she
this feels
dies.
more connected to the stuff that we have had set up with the breaking of the mirror and be able to move things around.
Yeah,
Whereas if we do like the stopping of the heart, it's going to be very uneventful in the grand scheme of the film because we've set up everything else as being a weapon. So
and
yeah,
notice the
not to just
similarity. And notice the similarity between this and that glowing eye Jesus
I'm
figurine.
100% totally on the nose. Like I'm assuming chicken and the egg. What came first? We're going to do this imagery of Margaret, or we're going to do this with Jesus, or we found this statue. Brian, what do you think of this statue? And oh,
Hmm.
that's perfect. We'll make Margaret. I mean, yeah, I don't know the story, but I'm assuming that's the chicken and egg with De Palma for sure.
Yeah,
By the way, when you see Dress to Kill, you'll have a behind the veil look at I'm going to say it, the perversion of Brian De Palma and the shower sequences. I'm like, oh,
I mean, Brian De
dude's
Palma is
got
like a student of Hitchcock. Like in this movie, you
Brood's
hear,
dude's got a type though. He's got a certain process of how he wants to convey that fetish, and I'm like,
yeah.
okay, there we go. Okay, very. He's got a. I was like, I was just rewatching this movie, and I got my finger on the little fast forward, and I'm like, oh, yep, exactly. Oh, yeah, yeah, Brian, we got you. We know what you're into.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, I derailed the conversation for sure with
Yeah,
that. So sorry
it's
about
it's
that.
it's a it's mainly a chill conversation, so it can go in whatever direction we want to go in. But like, yeah, just to go back a little bit. So before the dance, Margaret's still up to her old tricks, trying to be just being the abusive parent that she is. She keeps telling Carrie, you have right, oh, right here, the
Yeah.
dirty. It's like everybody can see your dirty pillows, and I'm just like I'm floored by the language that she uses to describe like this supposed and this is something that she's already invested into. She obviously weaved her dress herself, and she yeah, she's trying to better herself. And then you have her mother just putting her down like that, and it's just like she's like, I knew it was going to be red, and she's like, well, it's pink, and look what Tommy gave me. And she's like, they're going to laugh at you, they're all going to laugh at you. And you're like, is she trying to be nice to her? No, she's manipulating her.
She's a monster.
She's a
She's
monster.
just the most emotionally abusive, degrading. Like, so look, it would not be uncommon in a religious or Christian home to be like, listen, you're kind of advertising what you want to have happen tonight. Maybe you should have your shoulders covered, or maybe have a less revealing dress. But that would have all happened ahead of time. But this woman is like unhinged with, like you said, the pillows comment and these kinds
Yeah.
of things. And then, like you said, I think what really is abusive is her putting value behind the bullies. Well, they're going to pick on you. Like, why would a parent ever say that to their kid? Like, why would you ever open your door? Because what's going to happen is your subconscious now is going to question every comment as being a like there's a psychological term for that, where you see the things that may not even exist because you've programmed yourself that you are. The study was like all right, so they did this study with these women. This is fascinating. So they did this study with these women. They did this makeup, but they did this thing where they put like a fake tattoo on their face.
Okay.
Okay, they're going to go into a job interview, and we're going to study what you think. So right before they go in, they touch up their makeup, and what the women don't realize is, control study, right? Some go in with a tattoo, most have it wiped off, so they remove the tattoo. What do they report back? Even the ones that have it removed still behave as though this person victimized them or was judgmental with the things that they said or did because they think that this tattoo thing is on their face. So it's
Oh.
it's like it's in your head, it's in your brain. So by telling her that she's going to be picked on, you're setting her up to go in an environment where every little person, like you go up to Carrie and you go, "Oh, hi, nice dress." It will be what she hears, even if you meant, "Hey, nice dress." Oh, that person's never nice to me. That person's going to pick on me. Like that's the kind
It's
of programming.
it
This
it
movie is
stays
so
with her.
far
Yeah.
ahead of its time on that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's insane. And what's beautiful about this segment, and I'm gonna even try and go back further, where she actually like where this attitude started a few scenes earlier, basically when they're eating apple cake. They're sitting down to dinner or their dessert or whatever. They're eating apple cake, and it's funny how Carrie brings up apple cake gives me like rashes or acne or something like that. I was like, really? I don't know where that came from. But she talks about how Tommy asked her out and all that, and her mother throws like they're drinking like tea or coffee or something. She throws the drink in her face like
Yeah.
that. And then it gets to a point where she's like, "Mother, please talk to me." And then she reveals herself to her mother. She closes all the doors and all the windows and everything.
Yeah,
And of
keep
course,
going. It's past all this. Yeah, it's past this. Yeah, because this is where he's going to have this first effort of like, you're pretty, and it's like, what are you in it for? And then it's like, you come to the door. I'm not going to leave till you agree to go with me.
yeah, right
And
here.
then this is the sequence. Yeah, and it's interesting in a movie, especially if you watch a movie like this and you contrast it to the last 5 years movies since
Yeah.
2016, really. Hollywood's obsessed with us making us to empathize with a villain and the backstory of Margaret and why she'd be this way. And they'd be, well, when I was a girl, and the only line in the entire thing is, I got drunk, and she treats it as a physical violation by the husband. They got drunk together and had Carrie, basically. that's the it. This movie is nothing but portraying Margaret as just evil in every possible way. Look at that. That's crazy that you would do that to
I
another person, let
I
alone your daughter. Like, it's nuts.
I was floored when I was a kid. I was floored when I first saw this. And
Yeah.
she's talking about like she wants things, she wants to better herself. She's trying to have a one-on-one. She's trying to have a conversation with her mother, and her mother's just not having it. And then she's just like, her mother goes in this creepy tirade. She's like, after the blood comes the boys, like sniffing this and blah blah blah.
Yes.
And
They can
she's just
sniff
like,
you out. Yeah.
it's so it's just so messed up. And this is where she, says, you're going to talk to me, mother, and things are going to change around here. And then she's like, oh, that's the devil's power. And she's like, no, it's me, mom, it's me.
Right.
Don't stop being. So she's starting to wise up, and like that smile right there. She basically, I mean, she was able to see through her mother saying all that shit later, right before the prom and everything. And there comes to a point where
Let me pause you real quick, because you hit the nail on the head earlier. I want to just pause real quick, because that scene does set up what you said earlier about Carrie understanding, or at least embracing, and we, the audience, seeing this for sure. As she's getting more emotional or more enraged, it's almost like a volume level of her powers. So, for instance, from the first moment to this one, now we see a massive escalation of her powers and how that manifests because of how she responds to Margaret. So it perfectly foreshadows how we see the rage forming and manifesting at the prom. So I just wanted to I wanted to call back to what you had talked about earlier, because that was the scene that's like, we have step one of that, now we have step two of that, before we get to the final sequence.
Yeah, so step one was obviously she's screaming, she is terrified of learning that, she's becoming a woman and all that. And the first thing that happens, she screams, and then the light goes out. I'd show that, but there's nudity involved.
Well, they breaks. There's a mirror that breaks in a different scene, right? So
then after that, she's looking at like the ashtray right here in the principal's office, and the principal is just he's just an insufferable idiot. He keeps calling her Cassie, and no matter how many times they've corrected him to say Carrie. Yeah. We're all so sorry, Cassie. It's Carrie, and then the ashtray flips and everything, because you know what? Back in that day, smoking was good for you. Everybody smoked back then. So,
Marlboro Man, baby.
Yeah, and then we get this nice little shot here, which was also in the book. We have this little bratty kid. He's like, creepy Carrie, creepy Carrie, creepy Carrie, and then she knocks his ass down. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, and the kid's just like, the hell? What happened?
How'd that happen?
How did that happen? He looks like a brat anyway, so.
It's perfect, man. So like I said, I wanted to make sure we just put a pin in the fact that you had kind of like created this like volume scale of the escalation of the powers over the course of the film. Because by the time we get to the prom, which is kind of where we're at, we've really set all of this up. And I will say the film gives us a lot of breadcrumbs to what's going to happen without you totally knowing. Like if you watch this film for the first time, they've gone to a pig farm and there's a slaughter and things like that, but you're not totally sure exactly what's going on.
Was that a farm, or was that like a factory, like a place?
Yeah, like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, like a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm sorry, like a yeah. It's
because they make the comment. They go into that building. There's the walls painted with pigs, and that one doofus friend of John Travolta, who I guess is the comic relief. He's like, look at all these painted pigs and all that. And then he's talking big, talking all shit and all that. And John Travolta's like, okay, you do it. I can't. Oh, really, huh? You're all fucking talk. Yeah. Excuse my language. You're all talk, huh? And then he goes and takes the thing and he whacks the pig off screen. No pigs were harmed during the making of this movie, unlike Friday the 13th, where they, killed a snake. They cut a snake in half because, So,
we do.
Yeah.
Movie.
So, yeah. But one thing I liked about this particular scene, just to go back really quickly, I think this was the one time now you might disagree with me. I think Margaret was actually genuinely concerned for Carrie in this moment right here, because she heard the glass go off and she's like, Carrie, is everything okay? And then she walks up and she's like, what happened? And she's like, oh, nothing. What noise? What was that noise? What noise? And then
I would actually want to ask De Palma What is Margaret? Why is Margaret care in this scene? Like, what is Margaret's motivation in this scene? She's heard a noise and she's investigating, but she's investigating, like you say, from a point of care, and that seems or feels very out of characteristic for the rest of the film because it is the only scene that happens. It sort of like goes by relatively quickly, where it's more like an investigative moment and suspicious, and it only works because you do still feel a little bit of Carrie. What did you do?
Yeah.
Rather than, are you all right? Did you fall down or break something? It still comes across as, what did you do? Rather than total, are you okay? Even though that is what's conveyed in the moment.
Yeah. She's
So
like,
that would be a good question for him. Yeah.
yeah, because she literally says, "What is that noise?" And then Carrie's like, "What noise?" He's like, "What noise?" I'm saying my prayer. She's like, "What happened? What's going on?" She's like, "I'm saying my prayers and all that." And then she's like, "Go to bed." And so she still comes off as cold here, but it seemed like when Margaret was sewing that she kind of was like, I don't know, I don't know, maybe
Like you said, it's
I'm
like,
reading
it is a little bit of that, what is going on, rather than, what did you do, to feel. But again, we're kind of like headcanoning this kind of stuff as far as what's actually happening. So it's kind of fun to do that. But yeah,
it is. I totally agree. And one thing I loved about this particular shot right here, where it goes from her looking up to the thing, this basically sets up that she can manipulate all the shards that fell and put it back really quickly. So with precision,
really fast.
And I was just like, okay, so there's. I mean, what is, like, you're kind of like, what is she capable of? Going back to this, one thing I loved is the choice of lighting here. So when she says, when Carrie's like, hey, someone asked me to the prom, and then the mom's like, prom, and then all of a sudden, like right here, prom, and then the lightning just goes off all around. You're just like, oh, she's not happy about that and everything. No. So I figure I every time I see that, I laugh. Every time I see that, I like the cue is just perfect. And
look how. I mean, she doesn't look menacing at all. She doesn't look evil at all. This is what makes this character work so great, is because if we took this frame and we just put it out there for someone who has no frame of reference, it just seems like a lady at a table with some candles. And she doesn't, it's just there. And the weird and scary part is
it could happen.
She is a monster from start to finish in this movie.
Yes. And she's heavily manipulative. She's not like your typical. She's not a mustache twirling villain. Like she thinks she's the hero. She thinks like every good bad guy, every good
all
villain.
The perfect movie. Yep.
She's the hero in her story, in her mind, and everything. And she thinks she's doing right by Carrie, where she's doing the exact opposite. And it's just it's insane. But one thing that I like that I noticed in the HD, the Blu-ray, because I watched this, I remember seeing her like, scratching herself, and she's like, hitting herself to the point where, Carrie's like, stop hurting yourself, mama, stop hurting yourself. I never realized it because I watched it on VHS and DVD. You can see the scratches right here. I never noticed that before. Like, and
I didn't notice that either.
The rest of the movie, so that's a great detail that
wow.
Gotta give
they would do these things to themselves to make this work. That's why I said like the stuff that Sissy Spacek did to herself to be this weird and dysfunctional, and what actors and stuff would put themselves through. It really is just, it's a different world that we live in now, for sure.
Yeah, but like, once again, this was like the final. This was like her last manipulation tactic, just hurting herself and all that.
Right.
And it gets to a point where she won't have it, and she just basically uses her power and knocks her onto the bed.
Yep, pins her down.
Pins her down twice. And then the moment she leaves, and I said this earlier, she's trying. This is right here. She actually says this, and you still see the marks on her face. She's like, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," and you're like, okay, what does that mean exactly? That can mean a lot of things. But then we get to, so we get the prom and all that, but then we actually cut back to Margaret in the kitchen. Margaret in the kitchen, where is it? Right here. We get this top down shot right here, which I thought was an interesting choice. So
very Hitchcock. Yeah.
And it looks like she's making chicken soup. I mean, you got the celery here, you got the carrots, you got the potatoes. Yep. Maybe she's making chicken pot pie. But she basically, takes the knife. There's no dialogue here. She takes the knife and just starts cutting. It starts chopping the carrot, and it's just like, hey, she's going to use that knife on Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that the scene communicates to the viewer right here. So that's why when after all the shit happens at the school and Carrie comes back home and she walks in they make it very slow, because you're like, okay, the suspense is killing us, because we know that she's going to try to kill her. We're just not sure how she's going to do it and everything. So, and the way that is handled is almost brilliant. So like, I want to do the gym stuff last. The gym stuff is definitely last, because the gym stuff is very interesting what they chose to do in terms of in terms of, once again, shot composition, all that, which was not just one shot. There was like two shots, because they split like a split screen type of deal.
Yep.
But like right here, look at this shot. She's walking. It's like she's walking into a haunted house, and we're hearing the music here sounds very Bernard Herrmann, like you said, Alfred Hitchcock. The music here.
Well, he was supposed to score this. I don't know if you looked that up or saw that. He was supposed to score this. He passed away a couple weeks beforehand.
Oh,
but they did get the permission to use some of the psycho. That's why you hear that psycho sound. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So whenever she uses the power, they use the shriek sound from the from the shower scene.
Yep, exactly. So he was intricately involved with some of those like thought processes of how they were going to score it and things like that. But he did pass away right before this. So
they got Pino Donaggio. Pino Donaggio did the score for this. But like here is just the music here is just so atmospheric, so
ominous with just everything about this.
Yeah. And then when she gets into the house, and I was getting the house, there's candles everywhere, like, and she's still covered in the blood, but they're playing like a hymn. It sounds like they're playing a hymn from a hymnal.
Yep.
And like and I could tell this by hearing the structure. It sounds like the only thing that's missing is a choir, and a congregation to sing whatever this is. Maybe this is Margaret's final song or Carrie's song. I don't know whose song this is, but hey, I mean, it's just her walking around the first floor with all the candles just has that music, and then when she goes up the stairs, because Margaret's obviously not there, she's hiding, obviously. Then the music gets sinister again when she goes up the stairs, right here. So, and of course, she doesn't see her mother, but we see Margaret right there. She's just hiding behind the door. Creepy. This is a very creepy part right here. I don't even know if people notice that right away. It's not until she turns on the light that we know that. Okay, this is where it gets a little nudie right here, but.
It was interesting too, because I was reading some of this stuff, and some of the actresses have talked about how they weren't really interested in playing nude in the locker room scene and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he had already shot some of that with Sissy SpaceX. So once they saw what she had already done, they were okay with it. They're like, well, she could do it, we'll do it. So
I mean, you got to see Nancy Allen shirtless. You got to see I forget.
There's several of them.
Oh,
in that,
you know who else was one of the bullies I never knew? I was like, where have I seen her before? The woman, the one with the glasses, I forget her name. She was in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. She was the one at the airport. She's like, "You're fucked." That woman. That was her. That's her. That was her.
Hmm.
I forgot the actress's name, but like now every time I see her, I think, "You're fucked." I want my fucking car, my fucking this, and my fucking that, because that's the only time Steve Martin swears in that movie is that one scene. The rest of the movie's wholesome, and the only reason why the movie was R-rated was because of that scene.
Yes.
Let's talk about derailing. That movie is the one and only Thanksgiving movie in my book. I don't know of any other Thanksgiving movies.
Oh, well, that's funny you say that, because that will be one of our Talk Hards this upcoming November. We will have Talk Hard. We'll be doing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And the other one we're going to do, which I don't believe the boys have seen, it was my recommendation, it's called Home for the Holidays. So it's a Holly
I remember
Hunter.
that. It was the 90s. It was with Holly Hunter, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen
Holly
it.
Hunter. Robert Downey Jr.,
Yeah.
Dylan McDermott. Yeah. So it's this dysfunctional family sort of journey film. I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of reflect that we used to have these sort of like female centric films that were not really woke because she's the butt of all the jokes. Like what's changed is look at how this was handled before versus how we would do it now is why I chose that film. And then we're doing Miracle on 34th Street, the original, which Ironcaster loves to make a case for how it's more of a Thanksgiving movie than it is a Christmas movie. So we will love to feud over that a little bit.
I mean, it's both. And it starts at Thanksgiving with
It's
the Macy's Day Parade. By the way, I did a stream. I did a Christmas stream on that with Magitech Mags of all people last year.
That's
so
awesome.
I checked it out.
She's perfect choice because she's old school. She's an old soul and a beautiful little young body. So yeah,
she practically took command of the stream. Like I was forgetting things. She was reminding me of stuff. So, but that was a great.
She knows her old movies for sure.
Yeah, I totally agreed. And we did do planes, trains, and automobiles. Me and my friends, because you know what? I mean, where's it take? Where are they trying to go to? Chicago.
Thanksgiving dinner, baby.
Going
Chicago too.
Going to Chicago. Yeah. So, just I love that movie. I love that movie. Sorry, I'm derailing this right here, but yeah. So Margaret Margaret is just waiting for White Christmas. Yeah, White Christmas is one I have to eventually sit down and watch. I know it's a sin. I haven't watched it yet. So, but have you seen Grumpy Old Men? I never knew these were Thanksgiving movies either.
I don't remember them being Thanksgiving movies. I enjoy both of them. They're both fine for me. I don't know that I think of them as Thanksgiving movies, but they probably were set at Thanksgiving now that I think about it. But yeah, I'll be down with rewatching those. White Christmas is fun. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Holiday Inn was a fun musical for me. I really enjoyed rewatching that. I don't think I did it. I didn't do videos or anything on that. Just Mrs. Pops and I just watched Holiday Inn, and we just had a blast at that sort of like that old school approach to musicals and stuff. So anyway, look at that. Oh, that was like actual evil face we got out of her for a minute there. I like that. That was a good shot.
Yeah. Like I don't remember what happened there, but
yeah,
so
good luck trying to shower. It was like it's literally like a single frame of her, responding before you have the attack.
Yeah, so like she gets out of the shower, Margaret appears and basically holds her, and basically says, "Hey, I should have given you to God when you were born. I was weak, I was backsliding, and well, now the devil has come home." And she's saying all this stuff, and Carrie has no idea what she's talking about, but she's willing to go along with it. And she's like holds her, kind of distracts her while she reaches for the knife inside the little hole in the floor and all that, and then stabs her. And then after that, we get her, going after. She's just going after. Oh, right here, perfect. So this was the coup de grace until, unfortunately for her. Carrie has forgot Carrie has telekinesis, so yes, she can just do that. So probably shouldn't have wasted any time doing bad guy thing, but
total Hitchcock shot, right? Total Hitchcock psycho scenes here with some of the shots and the angles and things like that for sure. And then obviously, and I just think you nailed it, right? So I mean, poor Carrie is trying to be consoled because of the tragedy. Margaret's not even hearing it. Margaret's not even hearing anything that happened to Carrie. She could care absolutely less. She knows that Carrie has telekinesis, so therefore she's Satan, and she needs to be dispensed. I shouldn't even have had this child. She was birthed out of this sinful moment that my husband and I were drunk and we had, and then this attack starts to go sideways in really, really shocking manner.
Yes, and that's that leads to once again she gets crucified in her own way. So, and basically Carrie just screams and the house comes down. And that's, one thing about the shot right here, it takes her a while to die. Like she's just like, because, I think when Christ was crucified, they waited until he eventually suffocated. He couldn't breathe under his weight anymore, I believe, is how Christ died. Basically, it wasn't blood loss or anything like that.
No,
and she's struggling to breathe right here, and then she just dies like this.
Yep.
And then her facial expression changes in the next shot. So that's one thing I've always noticed. So, but because of that, Carrie screams and broadcasts or does something and brings the whole house down. I was like, okay, why does she? And the one thing I noticed was like, why does she look like she's dead in one of the shots with the Christ thing right here, like right here. She's clearly dead, and I never noticed it because it's a very quick shot. But something hit like one of the beams hits her in the head. And it's very it's very subtle if you're not paying attention. So right. Wait 1 second.
I think they cut back and there's a shot of it when they cut
Right here.
back.
Right here. So that's top of her head. And you don't even see it, but it hits her.
There's a brick or something that hits her.
A brick, and she's dead. She's gone. That's it. That's the end of Carrie White. Carrietta White. So but yeah, we got 20 minutes. So let's school. So so all the wholesome stuff has passed, and
I'm gonna say back up to where she's on stage and it's still lit. It's still got the white. Yeah, there we go. So at least we're still in the white light. And they dance. It's all sweet and wholesome. Everyone's and it is interesting to see like the awkwardness of the other students because they're not in on the prank.
Yes,
they don't like Carrie. She's the weirdo, but she's with Tommy. So I really thought this felt really good because I felt like the kids wouldn't know what's going on. Like everyone's sort of like, yay, I kind of have to do it because my tribe is doing it, but I don't know why. I don't like this girl, blah, blah. So I loved all this. I thought it really worked well.
Yeah, everybody's clapping. And so, and then what's great is what I love about this scene right here is that the music shifts. So the music from their point of view, it's very wholesome. Da 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 da. And then it shifts to Chris and Billy, and then it goes do 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 do, and it's menacing. It's like it's cutting in from the wholesome to what's going to happen now. It's getting suspenseful here. This is all going to go south, which is basically what that is saying. Mm-hmm. And then we get this great musical segment when Sue, who sneaks into the thing, sees so she's happy. She's seeing them. They're happy, but she notices the rope is moving right here. And then she spots the line that leads to the bucket, the blood bucket on the rafter up there. And it's a very slow sequence. Like everything seems to be like half speed here. That's one thing I've noticed that they use quite a bit is the half speed. They use half speed quite a bit. Like when they get on the stage, when she's like going up the line, and I'm curious if he notices her. Maybe he does.
I don't think so. I think he's still pretty naive to everything going on, even Sue being stage right. I think Sue's piecing together at the very last moment this is happening. She's following the string to see Billy and Chris there with the bucket. So she's figured it out, but she doesn't exactly do anything right away. And there's enough of a pause for Miss Snell, right? Miss Snell to get to her. So
yeah. And then as she finds them and everything, that's when Miss Collins kind of interferes. Miss Collins interferes and throws her out, and then gives them the reason to gives them the window to pull the bucket, and then the bucket
there it goes
perfectly. The blood perfectly lands on Carrie, perfectly.
And I will say, I know this sounds almost absurd. Like, why would she be standing there? How would they know where she stands? Okay, so back then we wouldn't have had spotlights and some of the technology that we have now. Yeah. If you were to go on stage for anything back then, they would have marks where you have to go. Podiums would be at certain spots. If you saw the shot, there's of course nice aerial shots, and you can see this is her seat. So whoever the queen is going to sit right here. So they would know exactly where she was supposed to be. There you go. So on the right, you can see this little stool. That's her mark. His mark would be on the left, and that wouldn't be just for the movie's sake. That actually would be the case because we wouldn't have had spotlights and the kind of things like we have now, where they could stand wherever and adjust it easily. It would have been difficult to do that back then.
Yeah. And so obviously right here with Tommy, he's just like, it's completely inaudible, everything right here. So you hear the music, you hear the sound of the blood, but you don't hear what's being said right here. Based on we just hear the sound of the blood. We hear the sound of the bucket hanging, dangling above him. And I believe, based on reading what he's saying, he's just like, what the hell is this? And then the bucket. And what's funny is, and this is something that I don't think really aged well right here, but the bucket right here, the bucket falls on Tommy's head.
Yep.
And
knocks him down.
It knocks him down. And so I wasn't sure if that, I mean, basically what happens is he dies. Like the moment that the bucket hits him in the head, he's dead, according to every source I've read.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he died. I thought he got like knocked out from the bucket or fell.
Then when
the fire and everything else consumes the gymnasium, that he would have died as part of that as well. But
yeah, that's what I thought too. But it's actually, that's not the case. Like the moment that bucket hits him in the head, he's a goner. He's dead. He's brain dead. Everything. So I'm guessing that bucket was really heavy or something. But steel bucket
does not age well at all.
Yeah, especially, and then you have then everybody's like, what's funny is you have PJ Souls, who was, that's the reason why she got the Halloween part, was because she was in this movie. She's basically saying, come on, everybody, let's laugh at them. Ha ha. And she's like, ha ha. And then she's like, come on, everybody. And then everybody starts laughing. The principal starts laughing. Even Miss Collins is laughing. They're all laughing. And then what's so funny is the way that Carrie looks at them. Like, I don't remember. I don't know what the technology is, or the way, like you see, like it's just like it's like a rotating. I don't know how to describe it. Let me see if I can find it right here. This it's like a lens, and like it's like a kaleidoscope right here.
Yes, correct. The kaleidoscope's the terminology. Yeah, they gave her like a kaleidoscope look. She's just not seeing reality. So it really doesn't matter what is actually happening. She's seeing all of it as the manifestation of what Margaret said. They're all gonna laugh at you.
Yeah, that's what she's hearing. She's like, first thing she hears is, they're all gonna laugh at you. They're all gonna laugh at you. And then it keeps repeating. It's on loop. And then she hears the principal saying, so sorry, Cassie. And then that loops around too. And then she hears Miss Collins saying, trust me, Carrie, you can trust me. While the other two, they're all being layered on each other. And then she just like, oh, like this. She closes her head, and she like does this, and then she lets it off, and then she goes all bug-eyed, creepy, bug-eyed,
and
bloody
a crazy
Carrie.
Bug-eyed image that's scorched into all of our brains of like, we think of Carrie, we think of the bug-eyed, and I think there's a box cover, one of the DVDs or Blu-rays. There you go, it's the face.
That's it.
And she's bonkers now.
And those two, Billy and Chris, they get out before she closes, before she shuts.
They don't want to get caught, so they start racing for the door.
Yeah.
And remember, Sue was thrown out. So they're out and Sue's out. Everyone else is still inside. Yeah.
So everybody, they're trying to get out. They can't get out. Like those two doofuses that hang out with Billy are trying to get out. They're like, oh, I can't get out. Why can't I get out? And then everybody starts screaming for some reason, because we have to make this scary situation. And then she manipulates manipulates the fire hose, and she starts spraying people. If why not spray everybody with the hose, spray the lines and everything, and then she straight up murders. So she sprays. Yeah, so they're trying to get out. She screams, and people are trying to escape, and she just uses the hose to knock their asses down. So this must have been a lot.
They actually did hurt one. I forget which actor it is or actress it is. They actually hurt one of them. So it like gave them like a weird equilibrium problem or something like that. I was reading that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So
yeah. So you have the hose right here, and then the principal and the teacher, the English teacher, try to fight over they're fighting over the microphone, and she just blows up the microphone. She fries the principal right here. She straight up murders the principal, all because he misnamed her. And then the English teacher right here, Mr. I think Mr. Lassick or something, or Mr. Morton or something, or Mr. I forget.
Mr. Morton. Yep.
He burns. He's the live wire that burns the entire place down. So the iconic shot of where is it?
Oh, it's coming.
That's right here. Like,
now we're there.
Like this is probably I don't know if you agree. This is, I think it's the most iconic shot of the movie. Her burning her the fire appearing right behind her. It's just like if there's I don't think there's nothing more menacing than that type of shot. Like this shot is awesome. Like this is insane.
And people have to understand how far ahead of its time this is. Like this is sort of like the shower scene image. This is, this is the 2001 Walking in Space image. This is, Star Wars lightsaber image. This is the stuff that we couldn't get out of our heads once you saw it forever. Like it just was ever. So yeah.
Yeah, and everybody in there got killed. They're watching this, so they know what's going on.
And isn't it cool? Now, again, this is nerdiness. Now I don't know, but De Palma uses the villains, or at least the antagonists in the movie, to be our eyes to witness them. So the camera has our split screen, so we're watching them see things that we, the audience, so they're going to get to witness Miss Collins. Basically, she gets trapped against the wall. Look at her face. There's that iconic face that makes it on the DVD covers. Woo,
I've seen some artwork of this face. Like, it is some of the scariest shit I've ever seen. Like
it's nuts.
Like when you did your YouTube post, talking about the stream.
Oh yeah, the one I used.
That one image. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, like, oh. Yeah, right there. And you see how
backboard beam or something comes down and hits her and snaps her in half, basically.
And I like how you see right here how Nancy Allen or Chris reacts to it. So there's a little bit of even though they were pretty much insufferable for the entire movie, here you're seeing a little bit of humanity out of her. Like this is not what we were intending. We were just intending to have a laugh and go home. Have a laugh, go home, and
And this is the fun of these movies, and where they miss the mark. There's morality in there. Like this is a lesson of like, listen, you could have a conversation with a bully that pulls a prank and someone actually gets hurt, and you could be like, listen, this movie Carrie is about this. Like, watch the end of this movie, man. Like, everyone dies. Like, you easily could have killed everybody, or you easily could have, those things happened. We've gotten, in life, you get lucky where certain things don't end up like this. But holy cow, this movie just goes the other way. Like, how horrific could we make it? And it's nuts.
Look at this lighting. Look at this red light. Oh, it's so.
His foot is on the gas, and he is not going to let us get out of this scene unscathed.
Yeah, and man.
And by the split screen, like you said earlier, it's almost like sensory overload. Because if you imagine watching this in the theater or whatever when this is going by, how much of this are you actually taking in? What's getting into your subconscious? And you watch it again, you're going to be like, I saw more of this. Yeah, because there was a split screen, sensory overload, and different characters, and yeah.
You're like, which screen should I focus on? Like, which one?
Yeah.
Oh man, this is
masterclass.
This is a master. Like, this is why I love the 70s. Like, 70s was very for movies. 70s was very dark. It was like usually in thrillers mainly, our heroes usually never make it out. Usually the bad guys win because everybody was freaked out about President Nixon and Watergate. So
it was a dark time. It was Vietnam, the economy, gas shortages,
assassinations
politics,
in the 60s,
Middle East, hostage crisis. I mean, it's just, we're a reflection. A lot of our media is a reflection of things. It's like you go through the 80s and you end up with, here we go. Now we're getting into that imagery.
This shot, like, I had to show this at the end. Like, I had to show this. Like, this. And this is once again slow-mo, like the doors opening really, really, and like it's opening really slowly, and you still hear the screams, but then the screams stop, and you still hear the actually no, maybe the screams don't stop. But the flame is basically has engulfed the entire gym, so everybody's burning now at this point. And Carrie is right by the door, so she is unscathed by this, and she's the only one that walks out of here alive and everything.
Yep. I watched this sequence 2 or 3 times whenever I was watching it for this. I was just like, I rewound this and watched this whole sequence at least 2 or 3 times for sure.
This is like, like, okay, so you're hearing the wind, you're hearing the, like, you hear this the menacing music in this, in the entire, rage part. It's just this hum, and then you hear like a wind sound, like, and then, yeah, like the opening of the shot, you hear the screams. The door opens, you hear the screams, but then the screams start to fade, and they fade, and they fade until all you hear is the fire crackling and the door shutting, and that was it. They were gone. Like, it is so chilling. It is so chilling. I have goosebumps.
He metaphorically is doing all the things that are. It sounds cliche to have to spell it out for people, right? But it's on purpose, right? The doors are going to swing open. The person that caused all of this steps out, and then behind her, as all of the lives are being snuffed out, the doors are going to close on all of that. She's the only one left standing. So it's very deliberate to try to create this sort of like imagery to go along with everything. This is very, very purposeful with this kind of thing, for sure.
Trip, I'm in total agreement. Original Carrie is a great movie. Yeah. This is a master class. This is Brian De Palma. This is like Brian De Palma at his as best. So, but yeah. So what else is left? So I mean, yeah. So she leaves.
The car attacks. It is a cool shot with the car. I like that. I think that was a pretty cool scene because it goes by so quick. You almost, like, if you blink, if you're watching this on your phone, you can blink and miss this sequence. So she's just in the street, and Tommy and Chris are going to run her down, basically.
Yeah.
And she just stands there, and there's just this quick shot.
And he doesn't look comfortable with this at all. Like, he's just like, he's freaked out. And Chris is definitely freaked out. And Chris is the one that's driving the car.
Yep. She's like, I mean, awkwardly driving, by the way. Like, this, not believably driving, but at least she's driving. Yeah. And she's triple down on revenge. And at the last second, instead of like making this, they do that. They do this close up on her eyes, and then the car just
so I'm
goes
curious
sideways and rolls.
The thing is, I didn't even really notice it just till now, but I'm wondering if she killed her. I'm wondering if she killed her just now. Like, look at this.
Kill her? Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. With the whole way that she, almost like a force push thing.
Yeah, I'm wondering if she did something. Like, maybe she stopped her heart or something, and then she lost control, and then
Yeah, we could. Yeah, again, I don't know if he's ever spoken on that kind of level of detail with the book and stuff like that too. But the car goes crazy and haywire, and
it doesn't happen exactly like this in the book. So the stuff with the mother happens first. So in the book, Carrie actually runs out of the gym, or Carrie runs out of the building, humiliated by having all the blood. But then she goes back. I don't remember, but I think she's outside the entire time when she burns the gym down. And some of the people get away. Mrs. Desjardins gets away. And a few other students actually managed to survive. And then she goes home. Her mother attacks her. She stops her mother's heart. And then she learns all this. Like, she learns that she was conceived in a roadhouse. And that's where, Mrs. White, smells the whiskey on her, her man's breath and all that. And that's when they do the deed and all that. And so she actually travels with the shoulder wound from the knife attack. She goes there and she comes across Chris and Billy. So Chris and Billy left. They didn't witness in the book. They didn't witness the attack on the school or the school burning down and all that. They hear about it on the news, and then they see Carrie and they're like, okay, she did it. They know that she did it, and they try to run her down. And Carrie, I forget what she does, but she takes control of the car and flings it against the wall or something. That's how she kills them both. And this is as she's basically blowing up the entire town.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right.
And then she collapses and dies. Carrie ultimately collapses and dies on the street, and Sue talks to her, or Sue finds her dying, and Carrie basically broadcasts to her, and she finds out that Sue was actually legit all along, and then she just screams and dies and all that. So it's still sad. It's still a sad,
tragic.
Still a tragic thing of affairs, and there's no like shock ending in the book. that we have to talk about. The last thing we have to talk about. So yeah, the house goes down. Glowy Jesus is there, and then we're back at the Snell house, and of course, all that trauma has made Sue sleep a lot more than usual, and she didn't go to the funerals and all that, and so we get this dream sequence right here where she goes.
We
to
don't
the
know it's a dream
record.
sequence. We don't know it's a dream
We
sequence at
don't.
first,
Oh, that's
right?
right. We don't know, but
Yeah, we don't. So there's a phone call. She's the only one that survived. She sleeps and she's recovering, and they cut to this sequence. So you think, like, especially because it's definitely got a filter on it. It could be in the future. You don't know what this is. Like it feels as though it's just the natural order of she's recovered and she's going to this place. Now there's a filter on it, so in hindsight, you should know it's not. It's a dream sequence, but it's not played that way. And she goes to this very strange looking location to where the house was. Yeah, that kind of thing. Carrie burns in hell.
Yeah, and the cross is a for sale. So someone carved a cross off a for sale sign, for sale sign, and it says, Carrie White is burning in hell and all that. And what I was reading about this scene is the reason why it was a dream. The reason why it feels like a dream sequence because they shot everything in reverse, I believe. I think that's how I think that's generally how they do that. So, but
and did you read how Sissy Spacek demanded on being buried so she would actually be the arms?
I was surprised, and
That's
what's funny?
They tried to talk her out of it. They were trying to talk her out of it. Like,
yes.
You don't understand what you're actually signing up for.
Yeah.
And she was down there so long. She kept asking, "Are we ready yet? Are we ready yet?" And they're like, "No, we're not ready yet. It takes forever to do these shots." And but those are her arms.
Brian De Palma washed his hands of it. He's like, Jack, art director, husband, you're handling this. And I was thinking a sick joke just before this, thinking about that. He's like, if anyone's going to bury your spouse, if anyone's going to bury you, it's your spouse. It's your spouse. Yeah. It's a terrible take, but it's true. So that's literally what happened. So her husband, set it up so that she would be, buried underneath it. And then that's actually her hand. That is her hand. And I was. Now, when I see it now, it doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah,
on me,
this is one of those that once you see it, and it's like now. But watching it kind of cold and giving yourself the benefit of you don't know. So when those arms reach out and grab at her or whatever, yeah.
So yes, you see the hand come out, and then all of a sudden you hear Sue screaming, and then she wakes up, and then it's insane right here. It's just like this. A hell of an ending of a movie. A hell of an ending.
No, and there's only music, right? Because evidently, because that's actually her real mom. So
yes.
Her real mom actually calls out the name Amy and not Sue, but you can't hear that because they play only music. So, but if you, I read that too. I was like, wow, this movie's just got so many layers of little fun things built into it on top of its own legacy and things like that. So yeah, great time, man.
But the music is so, the music is
just incredible.
Bum, 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 bum. Like I love like this like, and then the way it ends, like it ends on a weird note. And I was like, this would be the perfect way to show my title with it. Bum, 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 like that. And then I was like, but should I end it there? No, I wanted to show that creepy, her leaving the gymnasium after that during the titles, during my title card showing. It was a false ending. 70s horror had false endings. Sometimes I like to do that. I did my attempt. I did it with the thing. Like I did my attempt at a jump scare. I showed my title card in Corporeal Life Form, and then I cut to what's his name, Wilford Brimley, coming into the frame and attacking what's his name in the basement. And you hear that sound. I can't even. You know what I'm talking about, the sound from the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then it goes back to my title card. That was a jump scare. That was my attempt at a jump scare.
Nerdporeal jump scares. There you go. Hashtag
Nerdporeal jump scare. Jump scares. Yes. But but the ending of this movie, I mean, this was so influential. I mean, the reason why Jason Voorhees exists is because of this ending. This ending is the reason why Jason Voorhees exists in the first place. Because the end of Friday the 13th, they wanted to have a final scare. And they looked to Carrie. They were inspired by Carrie to do their own version of it. So they had Tom Savini, have Jason come out of the water and pull pull Adrian King into the water and all that. But yeah, this like Friday 13th. Friday the 13th borrows a lot from a lot of earlier films. Like if you've ever seen any Italian giallo films, like Day of Blood, like they directly ripped off of some of the kills from that movie for Friday 13th Part 2. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, this ending of the movie is iconic and it's great. And this was just this I think was like the most horror moment of the movie, in my opinion.
Well, definitely
Shock,
is
jump scare.
one that's the shock factor of stuff that you get with Nightmare on Elm Street and other stuff as well. That just that last second, we're just going to mess with you just a minute on your way out the door. So, for sure.
So
yeah, great choice, man. It's a great choice.
Yeah, we've reached the end of the line. So, Pops, do you have any final thoughts on the movie before we conclude?
I am so glad that you threw this in my way because just hadn't watched it forever and just had a blast. And like I said, I've been on this rabbit hole with a couple of King movies, 70s, 80s movies. The only thing I have is like October's winding down and I'm not going to have time to finish 2 or 3 that I kind of wanted to get to. And it's been great. And I really have to admit, it makes me more overzealous to nitpick modern stuff because people will always attack me, you're nitpicky, whatever. And I'm like, yes, because there's a craft, because there's a standard, because there's a history. Every time you're falsely giving something a little pat on the back, you're actually degrading these wonderful pieces of art that were done over here. And this is a perfect film for that. This is one of those films too, where you feel like, because it's so rooted in what the real world is like, it doesn't feel like the horror movie that it is, because it's more like an intellectual thriller with a couple of elements. It's like I used this term during our Poltergeist thing I did with Vex, where I used the term unnerving. As I've evaluated horror now, I feel like some things are not really, like Poltergeist really doesn't feel like much of a horror movie. It's just unnerving. And for its time, it was a gateway film for like the kids to get into horror. Like it was for us that weren't really into horror. Well, I was, because I was kind of like a nerd ahead of it, but most people were not into horror. Like most of my friends in middle school were not into horror movies, right? They had not seen most of these movies that I had already seen. But Poltergeist was like the blockbuster. Spielberg was a producer. Spielberg's fingerprints were all over
it. He was the shadow director, whereas Tobe Hooper was just
he was doing. No, it was still. I think it's the same as like Tombstone, right? It's like they're calling the action, they're calling the shots, they're doing the things. But Spielberg did all of the storyboards. Spielberg was there all of the time, saying yes, no, that works, it doesn't work, that kind of thing. So it's almost like he's the vision, whereas Hooper was more like operational. I think that's the same with Tombstone. The director's operational, but it's Kurt Russell's movie. Totally Kurt Russell's movie. He saved it from getting killed. So things like that are in place. A movie like Carrie. And and I think this is what you said with the 70s, because we can go back to like the early 70s, like Godfather, and all the way through Star Wars and beyond. It's like there's so much of these art students whose careers were exploding, and they were given somehow, for whatever reason, enough of this control, and the intricate details were passion. Yes. You know, like you said, the lighting, these color moments, some of the musical cuts, some of the musical edits, some of the different shots, and the actors and actresses are so just immersed into this character development and bringing this stuff to life. It's just all of this art, and that is what it is. It's this massive amount of cinematic art. This was another reason to get deeper into it, brother. And I can't thank you enough for it, man. I've had a blast doing it, so we'll definitely have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a blast too. It was interesting talking about especially. Usually, I like to usually go through the movie. In order. We actually didn't go through the movie in order. We actually went in a different direction. We talked about the characters and their arcs and everything, and I thought that was pretty compelling, actually. So if you're watching,
welcome to the world of Pops. If you're not actually watching any of my videos on my channel, a lot of times it's me and my emotional or visceral reaction to what I'm experiencing, and that is a lot of what you're getting, rather than a whole bunch of notes or bullet points or things in order and things like that. Actually, I just recorded a video. Good luck, you guys will figure out which one it is. And I have the trailer pulled up, because I normally do the trailer, and I'll just go through the trailer. I use it as a memory prompt. Like, I didn't talk about this scene or this character or whatever, just because I did the whole video and didn't play the trailer. So I had to go back and cut a sequence in of me actually doing it. Otherwise, it looks silly that the whole video didn't even show. So yeah, this was definitely a real fun one, brother. Really, really fun. I love it. So you're in my bailiwick when you're in the 70s and 80s for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like this is an OG. Like this is what this movie and Halloween is what got me into horror in general. So like I owe a lot to these two movies and everything. So, but I really appreciate you coming on doing this with me. This was a lot of fun. Um,
Yeah.
I mean this movie. I mean, rewatching this again, like this movie was successful for a reason. This movie is just like you said. This was a love. It was a very passionate project by De Palma. I mean, we got great acting, we got great, set designs, shot compositions. Like the movie is just compelling from start to finish. And I want more movies like this. I want to see more because now Stephen King adaptations are, you know, they're not.
And think
They're
about, I didn't know if you looked at the box office numbers. This movie basically 30x'd.
really
It's made for like less than two. Okay, someone check the numbers. Less than $2 million and made over 30.
holy crap.
It's
So
like
yeah, so budget
it's like
1.8.
25x or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the budget was 1.8 million. So you have to account for marketing and all that. So probably two and a half. I'll just say two and a half. Throw a number out there. Yeah, it says the box office was 33.8 million. So
So
I don't.
15x. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious if they did the same practices back then and took 60%. The studio took 60%. The theaters took 40% of the cuts.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Just so you know. And marketing wasn't as expensive because the marketing back then is we made some posters and we did this trailer and that's the only trailer. That's the only TV ad. Or if there was TV ads for a horror movie.
That's true.
So some of these things, yeah. So marketing's just different. They didn't have this. So you have to kind of go through the history on some of the marketing. Like Jaws is this big marketing thing that didn't exist prior to Jaws, right? So there's little things like that you find out like the Godfather thing was not marketing. It was about let's roll out like all of these theaters, like X, like I don't know, quadrupled X the number of theaters for this debut, so they could have this major box office opening number, and they would get all this free press from a blockbuster opening, so therefore people want to go see it. Mm-hmm. They didn't have enough money to do both, so it was like, well, how about we do this? And it worked brilliantly, of course. Jaws was like a phenomenon of, all right, well, what if we did this and we did this and we did this? And again, that's the Spielberg and Lucas. They thought differently, like these 20-year-old kids who just thought differently, right? Mm-hmm. This movie 15x. Okay, I exaggerate. I didn't realize it was that low. I thought it was more like But anyway, you make a movie for $2 million and you make 30. Studios are like, what would you like to do next?
The next Stephen King book, the Salem's Lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Salem's Lot. That's a great. Now that's probably the most horror. I mean, out of all the Stephen King books I've read, I think that one's the scariest. Scarier than it. Scarier than everything else I've read by him. Like it's the creepiest and the scary, in my opinion, the scariest of all the books. So,
cool.
But yeah, so great movie, great thing. That's it. I love it. It's definitely one that I'll keep watching until I can't watch stuff anymore. So, Pops, do you have anything you want to promote before we go?
No, folks. Dempsey, thank you, Dempsey, for putting that in there. At Pops, super easy to find. I have like serious ADD, so my channel is riddled with like modifications and segments of all these type different things. Tuesday is a live show called Talk Hard. We pick a movie, we talk about it. And then we have like a Wednesday interview show, which you have been on. Thank you very much for that. Saturday morning cartoons, where I do like a reaction to like some old school cartoons. I'm still going through Batman animated series, so we still have a couple more weeks, a few more weeks before we're through season 1. I just kind of like have this sort of like constant content diet and conversation with everyone about good, bad, and otherwise, and things like that. So that's my shtick, and just throwing it at you from the heart and having a good time doing it, meeting people like you, getting to know everybody in chat. Some of these great folks, and I feel blessed to be doing it for sure.
Yeah, that's why I do what I do too. I love to keep the conversation alive. So I mean, like because of the season, that's why I'm doing the serial horror stuff. This was originally going to be my season finale tonight, but I was like, you know what, I got room for a couple more that I want to do. So
awesome.
So yeah, good. So next one's going to be Halloween. So even though I did a stream last year showing Prophet of the Dragon, Halloween, and him and his kids Halloween for the first time. Dempsey
Oh, I
was
remember
there.
that stream. I
Yeah,
remember that stream. Halloween's my favorite. Like I said, there's two. It's The Thing and Halloween. They're my top two. And on Halloween, we're doing Halloween. So for our talk hard next week on Tuesday night, we're doing Halloween as well. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, brother, do
So
more. Yeah, if
yeah,
you got
so
time
yeah,
and you can
so
fit it in, do it.
yeah. Another person I usually collaborate with, the Golden Age Geek on Twitter, has just he started watching Star Trek, so me and him have been talking about his journey into Star Trek, and then a few days ago, surprisingly, he goes on Twitter saying, "Hey, I watched Halloween for the first time." And then he's just like, what should I talk about? And then I must have typed like a dissertation. Like there's so many things about
Yes.
that movie that I just want to talk about. Like that movie, it's just like, I must have seen every
Genius.
documentary about it. It's like when you see all the other Halloween movies after that, you're just like, what, really? Like, where's the quality? Like where's the quality that first movie did? So I was just like, we have to talk about it. And I was like, so we're going to be talking about it on Saturday. And so
Awesome.
because I have a trailer, I want to show the trailer really quickly for my upcoming Halloween stream. So here we go. One thing that the other Halloween films never did was recapture the creepiness of his breathing. So like like in the sequels, they say he never made any sound. Well, he does make a sound. He breathes.
Yeah.
And that's what led to the creepiness, especially the final part of the movie. Cause you're like, you hear his breathing, but where is he? Where is he? He could be anywhere. And then that's how people left the theater back then. Like that's a hell of a movie going experience after seeing a horror movie like that. So, Pops, thanks for being here. Everybody, everybody subscribe to Pops, check out his video, check out his Christine stream that he did with Stone Loki. And definitely come back tomorrow. Chilporial is going to continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be talking with the one, the only, the legend himself, the puppet, Punk Waddle. So Punk Waddle and me are going to be talking for an hour about whatever. Probably going to be talking about our favorite YouTubers, and we're gonna go down memory lane. We're going to go down how we first met on YouTube and where we're going, where we're going to be going in the future and all that. So that's it's going to be an hour because he's going to be on Snowdub's thing, and so it's just going to be us. It's Chilporial's chill chat, basically. Talk to different people and have a conversation. That's basically all it is. Just kind of like this right here. So, but you know what, everybody. Because of the Carrie thing, and I know everybody loves my openings, I'm going to show the opening again, then I'm going to show the outro, and then that's going to be it. So everybody, take care, have a good night, and stay Nerporial.
Take care, everybody.
The end of the year is nigh. All that was alive and green now turns to a dark red, a bloody red. A red that activates our fear, making us all crazy. To properly channel this fear, we release it through the consumption of horror media. Nerporial and a special guest will have a special discussion during this time to ward off evil for all its pain and pleasure. Nerporial humbly welcomes you to Season 2 of the Serial Horror Chat.